Welcome back to Knowledge Drops, your favorite English listening and learning channel. Today's video is very important because today we have more than 10 stories in single video. The purpose of this video is only to help you improve your English listening skills. So grab a cup of tea or a coffee. Sit in the comfortable place, relax and starting watching this video. And if you are new on channel, subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this. Let's begin. Have you ever felt so nervous about something that you wanted to just avoid it altogether? Maybe it was a test, a presentation, or even speaking in English in front of others. Nervousness is something we all feel at times, but today, we'll hear a story about a student who found her inner strength on a very important day. Meet Sarah. She's a bright and hard-working student, but she has one big challenge. She gets extremely nervous before exams. And today? Today is her final English exam, the one that will decide her grade for the year. Sarah has been preparing for weeks, practicing her essays, and listening to English lessons online to improve her skills. But as the big day arrives, something unexpected happens that shakes her confidence. What would you do if you were in Sarah's shoes? Would you freeze, give up, or try to push through the fear? Sarah's journey is one of courage, resilience, and a surprising twist that changes everything. In this video, as you follow Sarah's story, you'll also improve your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, learning a language is not just about words, it's about building confidence and handling real-life situations. Let's dive in and see how Sarah faces her exam day jitters, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find a tip or two to help you overcome your own challenges. The sun rose slowly, lighting up Sarah's small room. Today was the big day, the day of her English final exam. Sarah had been preparing for weeks, but as she opened her eyes, a familiar feeling crept over her. Nervousness. Her heart began to race, and a million thoughts flooded her mind. What if I forget everything? What if the questions are too hard? She whispered to herself. Determined not to waste any time, Sarah sat at her desk and opened her notes. She read through her carefully prepared essay one more time. It was a topic she had practiced over and over. The importance of learning English in today's world. She had memorized every word, but doubt still lingered. She tried reading aloud, hoping it would make her feel more confident. English is the key to communication in a global world, she began, but her voice shook. Skipping breakfast, she grabbed her bag and double-checked to make sure her notebook was inside. It held everything she needed, her essay, vocabulary lists, and important tips from her teacher. Without it, she felt unprepared. On her way to school, Sarah noticed how quiet the streets were. Usually she loved mornings, but today, every sound seemed louder, the birds chirping, the cars passing by, even her own footsteps. As she walked, she kept repeating lines from her essay in her head, but no matter how much she practiced, the nervous feeling wouldn't go away. When Sarah reached the school gates, her best friend Tom was waiting for her. Tom was the opposite of Sarah, calm, confident, and always smiling. You look like you've seen a ghost, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. I'm just nervous, Sarah admitted, forcing a smile. What if I mess up, Tom? What if my English isn't good enough? Tom gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. You've worked hard, Sarah. Trust yourself. And remember, English isn't about being perfect. It's about trying your best. Sarah nodded, but her hands were still trembling. As she walked into the classroom and sat down, she reached for her notebook to go through her essay one last time. But then she froze. Her notebook wasn't there. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She frantically searched her bag again, hoping her notebook would somehow appear. It wasn't there. Her carefully prepared essay, vocabulary notes, and all the tips she had relied on were gone. A wave of panic washed over her. No, 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 she whispered under her breath, her fingers trembling as she checked every corner of her bag. But it was no use. Her notebook was still sitting on her desk at home. What am I going to do now, she thought, her heart pounding. Tom, sitting beside her, noticed her pale face and wide eyes. Sarah, are you okay? He asked, leaning closer. I forgot my notebook, Tom. I can't do this without it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom's expression softened. Listen, Sarah, he said calmly, you don't need the notebook. You've practiced this. You know the essay. You just need to believe in yourself. But what if I forget everything? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Tom smiled. Do you know why we learn English, Sarah? It's not just to pass exams or write essays. It's to express ourselves, to communicate. You've got this inside you. Forget the notes. Just focus on what you know. Sarah wasn't convinced, but there was no time to dwell. The teacher entered the classroom, and the students quickly settled into their seats. As the teacher handed out the exam sheets, Sarah's hands felt cold. She stared at the blank lines where she was supposed to write her essay. The words she had practiced for weeks felt far away, like a distant memory she couldn't reach. She closed her eyes for a moment, hearing Tom's words in her mind. English isn't about being perfect. It's about trying your best. Taking a deep breath, she began to write. The first few lines came slowly, but as she continued, she realized something surprising. She wasn't writing the essay she had memorized. She was writing from her heart, using the words she knew. The sentences weren't perfect, but they were hers. By the time she finished, she felt exhausted but relieved. She had done it, without the notebook. But would it be enough? As Sarah handed in her exam paper, her hands were still trembling, but there was a new feeling creeping in, relief. She had finished it, even if it hadn't been perfect. Yet, doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What if it wasn't good enough? What if I made too many mistakes? She thought, her chest tightening. The rest of the day felt like a blur. During lunch, Tom sat with her, trying to lift her spirits. You did your best, Sarah. That's all that matters, he said, handing her a sandwich she hadn't even noticed he bought for her. Sarah nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling of failure. She kept replaying her essay in her head, wondering if her grammar was correct or if her sentences made sense. By the time she got home, her energy was drained. That evening, Sarah decided to distract herself by listening to English podcasts, a habit she had developed to improve her listening skills. As she listened to a story about someone overcoming their fears, something clicked in her mind. The speaker said, "Mistakes are proof that you're learning. The only way to grow is to face your fears and try again." Sarah paused the podcast and stared at the ceiling. Maybe she had been looking at it all wrong. English wasn't about being perfect, it was about progress. And today, she had faced one of her biggest fears, writing an exam without her notes. The next morning, Sarah felt a little lighter. The exam results wouldn't come for a week, but she decided not to dwell on it. Instead, she focused on what she could do to improve. She practiced speaking in front of the mirror, recording herself and playing it back to spot areas for improvement. She also made a list of new vocabulary words she had learned recently and tried to use them in sentences. As the days passed, Sarah realized something surprising. Her confidence was growing. By the time the results day arrived, Sarah was still nervous, but she felt stronger. She had learned that fear doesn't disappear overnight, but each step forward makes it smaller. Whatever happens, she thought, I know I've tried my best. The day of the results had finally arrived. Sarah sat in the classroom, surrounded by her classmates, all buzzing with excitement and nervousness. The teacher entered, holding a stack of papers that felt heavier than usual to Sarah. "Today is the day you see how far you've come," the teacher said with a warm smile. "Remember, this is not just about grades. It's about learning and growth. One by one, the teacher handed out the papers. Sarah's heart raced as her name was called. Slowly, she walked up to the desk and took her paper, clutching it tightly in her hands. For a moment, she couldn't bring herself to look at it. Tom nudged her from the next seat. "Come on, Sarah. Look at it. You've got this." Taking a deep breath, she unfolded the paper. Her eyes scanned the page, and she couldn't believe what she saw. She had passed, with a good score. Not perfect, but more than she had expected. Her essay, the one she had written from her heart, had received praise from the teacher. There were corrections, of course, but the comment at the end made her eyes widen. "Excellent effort, Sarah. You've shown great progress and creativity. Keep it up." Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from sheer relief and happiness. She had done it, without her notebook, without perfection, but with courage and determination. Tom gave her a thumbs up. "I told you, Sarah. You're better than you think you are." Later that day, Sarah shared her results with her family. Her parents were proud, not just because she passed, but because she had worked so hard to overcome her fears. That evening, Sarah sat at her desk, reflecting on her journey. She realized that the real victory wasn't the grade, it was the confidence she had gained. She had learned that making mistakes was okay, as long as she kept trying. From that day on, Sarah approached English with a new mindset. Whether it was writing, speaking, or listening, she embraced every challenge as an opportunity to grow. And whenever she felt nervous, she reminded herself of the day she conquered her fear and succeeded. Sarah's journey taught her a lesson she would carry forever. Learning English, or any skill, isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. The exam, which once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle, became a turning point in her life. It wasn't her preparation or her notes that helped her succeed. It was her willingness to face her fear and adapt when things didn't go as planned. Through her experience, Sarah realized the true value of English. It's not just about writing essays or passing exams. It's about expressing ideas, connecting with others, and opening doors to new opportunities. Even though she had forgotten her notebook, she hadn't forgotten what truly mattered, her determination to try. Her teacher's feedback stayed with her. "Excellent effort. Great progress." It reminded Sarah that growth comes from effort, not from being flawless. This mindset helped her not only improve her English, but also grow as a person. For anyone learning English, Sarah's story is a powerful reminder. Mistakes are a part of the process. Each error is a step closer to improvement. Whether you're writing, speaking, or listening, what matters most is the courage to start and the commitment to keep going. As Sarah moved forward, she continued to practice every day, watching English videos, listening to podcasts, and speaking with friends like Tom. With each conversation, her confidence grew. In the end, Sarah didn't just pass an exam, she discovered her own potential. She proved to herself that she could overcome challenges, even when things didn't go as planned. So remember this, English isn't just a language, it's a journey. And like Sarah, every step you take brings you closer to success. Keep learning, keep practicing, and never give up. Have you ever met someone and felt a little nervous about what to say next? Imagine this, you're sitting in a park, and a stranger smiles at you. You want to respond, maybe even start a conversation, but the right words just don't come to mind. Sounds familiar, right? Don't worry, you're not alone. Small talk might seem simple, but it's actually a powerful tool, especially when you're learning English. In today's story, we'll explore how basic phrases like "what do you like to do" and "where are you from" can open the door to new friendships and better English skills. We'll follow the journey of two characters, John and Sarah, who meet for the first time in a park. Their story is filled with small surprises and the kinds of phrases you can use in your everyday life. But here's the twist. This isn't just about learning English. It's about building confidence and making connections. By the end of this video, you'll see how even a simple conversation can lead to something meaningful. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's dive into the story. And remember, every word you learn today will bring you closer to speaking English with confidence. It was a warm, sunny afternoon, and John was sitting on a wooden bench in a quiet park. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above him, and the sound of children playing filled the air. John had just started reading his favorite book, a novel about adventure and self-discovery. Though he enjoyed the peaceful environment, he couldn't help but feel a little lonely. Just then, a young woman named Sarah walked into the park. She looked around, searching for a place to sit. Sarah had recently moved to the city and didn't know many people yet. She carried a small sketchbook in her hand, hoping to find some inspiration for her art. Spotting an empty seat next to John, she hesitated for a moment before gathering her courage to approach him. "Hi," Sarah said with a warm smile. "Do you mind if I sit here?" John looked up, slightly surprised, and quickly closed his book. "Not at all," he replied, smiling back. "Please go ahead." As Sarah settled in, she glanced at the cover of John's book. "What are you reading?" she asked curiously. John held up the book, showing her the title. "It's an adventure story," he explained. "I love books that take you to a different world." "That's interesting," Sarah said, her face lighting up. "I like reading too, though I prefer mystery novels. They keep me guessing till the end." John nodded, intrigued. "Mystery novels are great. Do you have a favorite one?" Before Sarah could answer, a stray dog trotted up to their bench, wagging its tail. It seemed friendly and playful, and both John and Sarah couldn't help but laugh at its antics. "It looks like he wants to join the conversation," John joked. Sarah chuckled. "Maybe he's better at making friends than we are." The brief moment of laughter broke the ice, making them feel more at ease. The initial awkwardness faded, replaced by a growing curiosity about each other. Little did they know, this simple meeting was the beginning of a conversation that would not only help them learn about each other, but also improve their English in unexpected ways. As the laughter subsided, John turned to Sarah with a friendly expression. "So, are you new here?" he asked, hoping to keep the conversation going. "Yes, I am," Sarah replied. "I just moved to the city last week. It's so busy here compared to my hometown. What about you? Are you from around here?" John nodded. "I've lived here my whole life. The city can be overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it. What brought you here?" Sarah paused for a moment, considering her words. "I wanted a change, I guess. I'm an artist, and I thought the city might inspire me more than the quiet countryside." She held up her sketchbook and added, "I like to draw things that tell a story, and there's so much to see here." John smiled, impressed. "That's amazing. I've always admired people who can create art. So what do you like to draw the most?" "People," Sarah said thoughtfully. "I think everyone has a story to tell, and I love capturing that through my sketches. What about you? What do you enjoy doing?" John leaned back slightly, thinking. "Well, I enjoy photography. It's kind of similar to what you do. Instead of drawing stories, I capture them through my camera." "That's so interesting," Sarah exclaimed. "Do you take pictures of people too, or do you focus on landscapes?" "A bit of both," John replied. "But I find landscapes easier. People are harder to capture because you have to show their emotions. It's like telling a story in a single frame." Sarah nodded, clearly understanding. "That's true. I think emotions are what make art, whether it's a drawing or a photo, feel alive." The conversation flowed naturally, with both of them exchanging ideas and sharing their perspectives. They talked about their favorite places in the park, the things that inspired them, and even their struggles with being creative. As they spoke, Sarah found herself listening carefully to John's words, repeating phrases in her head to practice her English. John, in turn, tried to choose simple words, sensing that Sarah was still getting comfortable with the language. It was a small moment, but one filled with warmth and connection. Their small talk was slowly transforming into something deeper, as they discovered how much they had in common. As their conversation deepened, John noticed Sarah's enthusiasm whenever she talked about her art. He decided to learn more about her creative process. "So do you draw every day?" he asked. Sarah smiled and shook her head. "Not every day, but I try to. Sometimes I feel stuck, like I can't think of anything to draw. It's frustrating, but I guess it's part of being an artist." John nodded, understanding the feeling. "I get that. With photography, there are times when I can't find anything interesting to capture. But then something simple, like the way the light hits the trees, can inspire me." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's so true. Inspiration can come from the smallest things. Like today, I was watching the pigeons in the park, and I thought about sketching them. But then I felt shy about sitting alone and drawing." John chuckled. "Well, you're not alone now. Maybe next time, you can bring your sketchbook, and I'll bring my camera. We can create something together." Sarah tilted her head, considering the idea. "That actually sounds fun. It's always better to create with someone who understands what you're trying to do." Their conversation shifted to their goals and dreams. John shared how he wanted to travel the world and take photos of different cultures. "It's not just about the pictures," he explained. "It's about understanding people and their stories." Sarah agreed. "I feel the same way. Art and photography aren't just about the final product. They're about the journey and the connection you make with people along the way." As they spoke, the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. It created the perfect backdrop for their budding friendship. John turned to Sarah and asked, "So, where are you from originally?" Sarah's face softened as she replied, "A small town by the hills. It's quiet and peaceful, but I always felt like something was missing. Coming here feels like an adventure, even if it's scary sometimes." John nodded thoughtfully. "Every big change is scary at first, but it's also exciting. You've already taken the first step by moving here. That's brave." Sarah smiled, feeling encouraged by his words. Their connection was now more than just small talk. It felt genuine, like two kindred spirits discovering each other. As the evening grew cooler, John and Sarah continued their conversation, unaware of how much time had passed. The park had started to empty, with only a few joggers and dog walkers lingering. Yet, their newfound friendship felt like it was just beginning. "So," John said, breaking a brief silence, "have you explored much of the city yet? I could show you around if you'd like." Sarah looked at him, surprised but pleased. "That sounds great. I've been meaning to visit some places, but I don't know where to start. Everything here feels so big and unfamiliar." John grinned. "I know exactly how you feel. When I was younger, this city felt like a maze. But once you get to know it, it's full of hidden gems. There's this little cafe nearby where artists hang out. You'd love it." "Really?" Sarah asked, her excitement growing. "Do you go there often?" "Sometimes," John replied. "I'm not much of an artist, but the vibe is nice. People are friendly, and they're always sharing ideas. You could even sketch there. It's inspiring." Sarah nodded eagerly. "I'd like that. Maybe I can finally finish some of the drawings I've been working on." The idea of meeting again made both of them feel a little lighter. John leaned forward slightly, as if sharing a secret. "You know," he said, "meeting you here today was kind of random, but I feel like it happened for a reason. I don't usually talk this much with strangers." Sarah laughed softly. Me neither. But sometimes, the best things happen when you least expect them. Just then, the stray dog that had approached them earlier reappeared, wagging its tail and looking up at them hopefully. Sarah reached into her bag and found a small piece of bread she had saved. She held it out to the dog, who gladly took it and sat down next to the bench, as if joining their little circle. "Looks like we've made another friend," John said, smiling. Sarah laughed, nodding in agreement. "I guess today is full of surprises." As the evening deepened, they exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet at the cafe later that week. Though their meeting had been accidental, it felt like the beginning of something meaningful. As John and Sarah walked out of the park that evening, both felt a sense of fulfillment. What had started as a casual encounter had grown into a meaningful connection. John had found someone who appreciated creativity just as much as he did, while Sarah felt less like a stranger in a big city. Their plan to meet again gave them both something to look forward to, a chance to share their passions and learn from each other. This simple story reminds us of how small moments can turn into great opportunities. Meeting new people and practicing small talk might feel awkward at first, but it's one of the best ways to build connections and improve your communication skills. Imagine how many friendships might be waiting to start with just a simple hi, or what do you like to do? If you're learning English, conversations like these can be an excellent way to practice. Don't worry about being perfect. Focus on being genuine. Use phrases like "where are you from?" or "what do you enjoy doing?" to keep the conversation flowing. Listening carefully and asking questions can help you learn new words and build confidence. Now, it's your turn to take the first step. Try talking to someone new today, whether it's a classmate, a colleague, or even a stranger in a park. Practice makes perfect, and who knows, you might just make a new friend along the way. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Knowledge Drops for more English learning stories. Let us know in the comments, what's the most interesting conversation you've had with a stranger? Your journey to better English and meaningful connections starts today. Let's keep learning together. Have you ever felt stuck while preparing for an important exam, overwhelmed by the amount of work, and unsure where to start? If yes, you're not alone. In today's video, we'll dive into the story of Alex, a student who faced the same struggle. Alex had just 2 weeks to prepare for a life-changing exam, but instead of giving up, he discovered something that not only helped him pass but also improved his English listening and speaking skills. Exams can be stressful, especially when you're studying in English, a language that might not be your first. You may struggle with long textbooks, tricky words, and difficult listening exercises. Alex faced these challenges too. But his journey is proof that with the right strategies and mindset, anyone can overcome such obstacles. In this story, you'll follow Alex as he faces his fears, learns valuable lessons, and discovers the power of English listening and speaking. Along the way, you'll pick up practical tips to improve your own English skills. So, how did Alex turn his struggles into success? Did he find the right advice in time? Or did the pressure of the exam pull him down? Stay with us to find out how Alex's journey can inspire you to overcome your challenges and improve your English learning journey. Alex was a 19-year-old college student with big dreams. He wanted to secure a scholarship for his favorite university, but everything depended on his performance in the upcoming exam. The problem? He felt completely lost. Every day, Alex would sit at his desk, open his books, and stare at the pages, hoping the words would magically make sense. The exam required strong English skills, but English wasn't his first language. Words like comprehension, analyze, and evaluate confused him, and he struggled to make sense of listening exercises. Often, he'd listen to a passage twice and still miss the key points. At home, the pressure was mounting. His parents reminded him daily how important the exam was for his future. You need to study harder, Alex. This is your chance to prove yourself, his mother said one evening, her voice filled with concern. Alex nodded, but inside, he felt like giving up. On top of that, Alex was battling procrastination. Instead of starting his study sessions on time, he'd scroll through social media, convincing himself he'd study later. As the days passed, guilt began to set in. He knew he couldn't keep wasting time, but where would he even begin? One night, as Alex sat in his room surrounded by untouched notes and textbooks, he felt overwhelmed. Maybe I'm not smart enough for this, he thought to himself. The weight of expectations, his lack of confidence, and his struggles with English made him feel stuck in a never-ending cycle of frustration. But deep down, Alex knew he couldn't give up. There had to be a way to turn things around. He just didn't know what it was yet. The turning point in Alex's journey came one morning when he overheard a conversation between his classmates in the library. They were discussing a teacher, Mrs. Parker, who was known for helping students improve their English skills in a practical and simple way. "She's amazing," one of them said. "Her tips helped me finally understand those tough listening questions." That afternoon, Alex gathered his courage and approached Mrs. Parker after her class. "Ma'am, I'm struggling with my English," he admitted, his voice hesitant. "The exam is only 2 weeks away, and I don't know how to prepare." Mrs. Parker gave him a kind smile. "You're not the first student to feel this way, Alex. But don't worry, we'll work on this together." She handed him a list of tips and resources. The first thing she suggested was to start small. "Break your study time into chunks," she explained. "Focus on one thing at a time. For listening, try watching short English videos with subtitles. Pause, replay, and repeat what you hear. This will train your ears and improve your pronunciation." Next, she recommended using podcasts. Find simple English podcasts about topics you enjoy. Listen to them daily, even while doing chores. It will help you get used to the language naturally. Lastly, she emphasized practice. Don't just read or listen. Speak. Repeat sentences out loud. Record yourself and compare it to the original. You'll see improvement faster than you think. Alex felt a spark of hope. That evening, he followed Mrs. Parker's advice, starting with a short podcast. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, he felt like he had a plan. With each passing day, he began to see small improvements. The journey was just beginning, but Alex finally felt he was heading in the right direction. Alex dove headfirst into his new study routine, determined to turn things around. He started his mornings by listening to short podcasts while eating breakfast. At first, the words seemed like a blur, but he followed Mrs. Parker's advice. Pause, replay, and repeat. Slowly, the sentences began to make sense, and he even caught himself repeating phrases aloud without hesitation. In the evenings, Alex would watch English videos with subtitles. He chose topics he enjoyed, like sports and science, which made learning less of a chore. He paused frequently to write down new words and practice their pronunciation. One day, while watching a video on space exploration, he learned the word orbit and proudly used it in a sentence the next day. Alex also created flashcards for difficult words and reviewed them daily. He started noticing how often these words appeared in his textbooks and past exam papers. Each time he recognized one, it felt like a small victory. Despite his progress, there were moments of doubt. One evening, while attempting a practice test, Alex got stuck on a listening question. The audio clip was fast, and he couldn't catch all the details. Frustrated, he almost slammed his laptop shut. But then he remembered Mrs. Parker's words. It's okay to make mistakes. Every mistake is a step toward improvement. Taking a deep breath, Alex replayed the clip and tried again. This time, he caught more than before. The improvement wasn't perfect, but it was there. By the end of the week, Alex felt a new sense of confidence. His pronunciation had improved, his listening skills were sharper, and he could finally tackle comprehension passages without feeling lost. The exam still loomed ahead, but Alex was no longer afraid. The big day had finally arrived. Alex woke up early, his stomach filled with nervous butterflies. He had spent the past 2 weeks preparing, but as he packed his bag, a familiar wave of doubt crept in. What if I forget everything? What if I'm not good enough? To calm his nerves, Alex replayed one of his favorite podcasts on his phone during breakfast. It wasn't just about learning anymore, it was about reminding himself how far he had come. The words felt familiar now, like old friends. When he arrived at the exam hall, the atmosphere was tense. Students shuffled in their seats, flipping through last-minute notes. Alex, however, focused on taking deep breaths, just like Mrs. Parker had taught him. Stay calm and take it one question at a time, her advice echoed in his mind. The exam began with a listening section. Alex put on his headphones and pressed play. The voice on the recording was clear, but the questions were tricky. He focused on keywords and phrases, jotting down notes as he listened. His practice paid off. He recognized terms he had learned from podcasts and videos. Next came the reading comprehension. Alex scanned the passage, circling unfamiliar words. But instead of panicking, he used context clues to figure out their meanings. Words like analyze and evaluate, which once felt intimidating, now seemed manageable. As the minutes ticked by, Alex worked through the paper with a quiet determination. There were still moments of uncertainty, but he trusted his preparation. When the final bell rang, signaling the end of the exam, Alex let out a sigh of relief. He had done his best, and for the first time, he felt proud of his effort. 2 weeks later, the results were out. Alex sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen, his hands trembling as he clicked on the link to view his scores. The page loaded slowly, and his heart raced with anticipation. Finally, the results appeared. Alex scanned the numbers, his eyes widening as he saw his score. He had passed, not just barely, but with flying colors. He couldn't believe it. The subject he had feared the most, English, turned out to be one of his strongest sections. Mom, Dad, I did it, he shouted, running into the living room. His parents hugged him tightly, their faces lighting up with pride. We knew you could do it, Alex, his father said, his voice full of emotion. But Alex knew this wasn't just about passing the exam. It was about the lessons he had learned along the way. He realized that success didn't come from cramming or fearing failure. It came from consistency, determination, and the willingness to try new approaches. The experience also gave him a new appreciation for English. What once felt like a barrier now felt like a bridge to endless possibilities. Listening to podcasts, watching videos, and practicing aloud had not only helped him with his exam but also boosted his confidence in everyday conversations. Alex decided to continue his English learning journey, even after the exam. He started speaking more in English with his friends, and even joined an online community where he could practice with people from different countries. As he reflected on his journey, Alex smiled. The struggle had been tough, but it had taught him the importance of perseverance and the value of taking small, steady steps toward a big goal. Alex's journey is a reminder that challenges, no matter how big, can be overcome with the right mindset and strategies. He started out feeling lost, but by seeking advice, staying consistent, and using practical tools to improve his English, he was able to achieve his goals. As you continue your own English learning journey, remember that progress takes time. Whether you're preparing for an exam or just trying to improve your speaking and listening skills, the key is to stay patient and keep practicing every day. Listening to podcasts, watching videos, and speaking out loud may seem simple, but these small steps add up to big improvements over time. Don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. And just like Alex, you can turn your struggles into success with the right approach. Thank you for watching. We hope Alex's story inspired you to keep pushing forward on your English learning journey. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Knowledge Drops for more stories that will help you improve your English listening and speaking skills. Keep practicing, and remember, success is just one step away. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you wanted to say something but held back? Maybe it was out of fear, or perhaps you thought it wasn't the right time. What if I told you that one decision could change your life forever? Sounds interesting, doesn't it? Our story today is called The Love Letter Never Sent. It's about a woman named Emily who finds something she wrote many years ago, a love letter to someone she cared deeply about. But guess what? She never sent it. Imagine finding something like that after so many years. What do you think would happen if you decided to find the person it was meant for? Stories like this are not just entertaining, they are also a great way to learn English. When you listen to stories, you learn new words, improve your understanding of grammar, and see how emotions are expressed. So don't just listen to the words. Try to feel the story and understand the characters. In today's story, Emily's journey is about more than just love. It's about courage, choices, and second chances. Along the way, you'll learn about expressions, emotions, and how to describe moments in English. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's start this amazing journey with Emily. Are you ready? Let's begin. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Emily decided to organize her apartment. Moving boxes were scattered everywhere as she prepared to start a new chapter of her life in a different city. While cleaning, she came across an old wooden box labeled Memories. She paused, her curiosity piqued. Dusting off the lid, she opened it carefully. Inside were old photographs, movie tickets, and small trinkets from her younger days. As she dug deeper, her hand brushed against an envelope. It was yellowed with age, and her heart skipped a beat when she saw her own handwriting on it. It was addressed to David, her college classmate and the first person she had ever truly loved. Her mind raced as she tried to recall when she had written it. Slowly, she opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. The words on the paper brought back a flood of memories. The letter spoke of her feelings, her admiration, and how much she had wanted to share her life with him. But the letter ended with the words, "I don't know if I'll ever send this to you." Emily sat down, her heart heavy with a mix of emotions. She whispered to herself, "I must have been so scared. Scared of rejection, scared of ruining our friendship." As she read the letter again, memories of her time with David came rushing back. Studying together in the library, late-night coffee runs, and their endless conversations about dreams and life. But life had moved on. Emily became a teacher, focusing on her career, and they had lost touch after graduation. She never told him how she felt, and he had moved away. Now, holding the letter in her hands, she wondered what had happened to him. Was he married? Was he happy? Did he even remember her? She thought about throwing the letter away, but something stopped her. Instead, she tucked it into her bag and decided to think about it later. The rest of the day passed, but her mind kept returning to the letter and to David. By nightfall, she made a decision. I need to find him, even if it's just to say goodbye properly. And so, Emily's journey began, not just to find David, but to confront the choices she had made and the words she had left unsaid. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The letter lay on her bedside table, its presence pulling her into memories she thought she had left behind. Her heart wrestled with questions. Should I look for him? What if he has forgotten me? What if he doesn't want to remember? Yet, another voice whispered, what if this is your last chance? By morning, she had made up her mind. She sat down with her laptop and started searching. Social media, old emails, even mutual friends. She tried every avenue she could think of. Days passed without success, but Emily didn't give up. Finally, through a friend who still kept in touch with their college group, she discovered something surprising. David had left the bustling city life behind and now lived in a small coastal town, running a bookstore. Emily's heart raced as she stared at the message on her phone. A bookstore? She thought, a smile creeping onto her face. That sounds just like him. The David she remembered had always loved books, spending hours talking about the ones that inspired him. Her best friend, Sarah, was skeptical when Emily shared her plan. "You're going to travel all the way there just to see someone you haven't spoken to in over a decade?" she asked, her eyebrows raised. "Yes," Emily replied firmly. "I don't expect anything from him. I just want to close this chapter of my life." 2 days later, Emily was on a train heading toward the coastal town. The rhythmic hum of the train brought a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She looked out the window, lost in thought. What if he doesn't want to see me? What if he's changed? The journey felt like a time capsule. Each passing mile seemed to peel back the layers of her past, making her more vulnerable yet more determined. She rehearsed what she would say, though every sentence felt inadequate. When the train pulled into the station, Emily took a deep breath. The salty breeze of the seaside greeted her, calming and energizing her all at once. With the letter tucked safely in her bag, she set off toward the bookstore, her heart pounding with every step. Little did she know, this journey wasn't just about finding David. It was about finding herself. Emily stood in front of the bookstore, her heart racing. It was a quaint little place with large windows and a sign that read Seaside Stories. Through the glass, she could see shelves lined with books and cozy chairs tucked into corners. For a moment, she hesitated. What would she say if David was inside? Would he even recognize her? Gathering her courage, Emily pushed the door open, and a small bell chimed overhead. The smell of old books and freshly brewed coffee enveloped her. Behind the counter stood a man arranging a stack of novels. His hair was peppered with gray, and he wore glasses perched low on his nose. Though he had aged, there was no mistaking him. It was David. Emily froze, her breath catching in her throat. She hadn't expected her emotions to hit so strongly. David glanced up and smiled politely, not recognizing her at first. "Welcome to Seaside Stories. Let me know if I can help you find anything." Emily hesitated but managed to speak. "David, it's me, Emily." His hands stopped mid-movement. Slowly he looked at her, his eyes widening in recognition. "Emily," he said, his voice a mix of surprise and disbelief. "Emily Parker." She nodded, smiling nervously. "It's been a long time." David walked around the counter, his expression softening. "I can't believe it. How are you? What brings you here?" Emily laughed awkwardly, unsure of where to begin. "It's a long story," she said, holding up the bag that contained the letter. "But I guess I've come to share something with you." David led her to a quiet corner of the shop where they sat surrounded by bookshelves. Emily pulled out the letter, her hands trembling slightly. "I wrote this a long time ago, but I never sent it. I found it while packing and, well, I just had to find you." David took the letter, his eyes filled with curiosity. As he read it, Emily watched his expression shift, from surprise to warmth, and then to something she couldn't quite read. When he finished, he looked up at her, a soft smile on his face. "I had no idea," he said quietly. "Emily, if only you had sent this." Emily braced herself for his next words, unaware that this encounter would change everything she thought she knew about the past and the present. David's words hung in the air, making Emily's heart race. She couldn't tell if it was from relief or dread. "If only I had sent it," she asked cautiously, unsure of what he meant. David leaned back in his chair, his eyes glancing at the letter again. Emily, I always wondered why you pulled away during those last months of college. We were so close, and then suddenly, it felt like you built a wall. I didn't know how to reach you. Emily looked down, guilt washing over her. I was scared, she admitted. Scared that if I told you how I felt, it would ruin everything we had. So I kept quiet. And then life just took us in different directions. David nodded slowly. Life does that sometimes. But you know, I felt something too. Back then I thought about telling you, but when you seemed distant, I thought maybe I had imagined it. So I left it alone. The weight of their unspoken feelings lingered between them. Emily couldn't help but think about the years they had lost. Years filled with possibilities that were now nothing more than memories they never made. But, David said, breaking the silence, life has a funny way of bringing things full circle. He smiled, and it wasn't a smile of regret, but one of understanding. I'm happy now, Emily. I run this bookstore, I'm married to a wonderful woman, and I have 2 amazing kids. But this letter, it's special. It's a reminder of a time when things were simpler, and feelings were raw and real. Thank you for sharing it with me. Emily's chest tightened. She wasn't sure what she had hoped to hear, but she was glad David was happy. I'm glad, she said sincerely. I think I needed this. Not for answers, but for closure. I wanted to say the words I couldn't say back then. And now I have. David reached across the table and placed his hand on hers. Sometimes, it's not about what could have been. It's about appreciating what was. We shared something beautiful, even if it was unspoken. That's enough. As Emily walked out of the bookstore, the ocean breeze felt lighter on her skin. She looked at the horizon and smiled. The letter was finally sent, not through words, but through courage and honesty. As Emily walked along the beach, she reflected on everything that had happened. Finding the letter, meeting David, and finally speaking the words she had kept hidden for years had been an emotional journey. It wasn't the ending she had once imagined, but it was the closure she hadn't realized she needed. The experience taught her something profound. Life is full of moments we don't fully understand until we look back on them. She had carried the weight of what-ifs for years, but now, standing by the vast, endless ocean, she realized those unspoken feelings had shaped her in ways she hadn't appreciated before. For years, she had been afraid of her own emotions, of rejection, of vulnerability. But facing those fears, even after so much time had passed, was empowering. It wasn't about changing the past, it was about freeing herself from it. As the waves gently lapped at the shore, Emily thought about the importance of communication. If she had spoken up back then, her life might have taken a different path. But instead of regret, she felt gratitude. Life had brought her here, and she was stronger for it. The encounter also deepened her belief in the power of honesty, not just with others but with herself. It's easy to let fear hold us back, but sometimes, the hardest conversations are the ones that set us free. Emily left the beach with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. Her story with David had ended, but a new chapter in her own life was just beginning. And with that, she promised herself one thing. From now on, she would never leave important words unsaid. Life isn't about rewriting the past, she thought. It's about learning how to write the future. Stories are a wonderful way to learn a language. They let you feel emotions, understand expressions, and see how simple words can carry deep meaning. Imagine this. You fall in love with someone who understands you like no one else. Every conversation feels magical. Every word you share brings you closer. But then, life happens. Suddenly, there are miles of distance between you and the person who means everything to you. Would love survive this challenge? Or would it fade away? In today's story, Love Beyond Distance, we meet Emily and Daniel, a couple who are deeply in love but find themselves separated by continents. Their love is strong, but the challenges of long distance put their bond to the ultimate test. Misunderstandings, loneliness, and the harsh reality of time zones begin to shake their connection. Why is this story important for you? Because it's not just about love, it's about communication, the kind of communication that makes relationships and language learning thrive. Through this story, you'll experience how words can heal, how listening builds trust, and how expressing feelings can bring people closer, no matter how far apart they are. So get ready to dive into a heartwarming and relatable journey that will not only improve your English, but also remind you of the power of words in our lives. Let's begin with Love Beyond Distance. Emily was a talented artist living in London, her days filled with vibrant colors and creative energy. She loved painting landscapes that spoke to the heart, often inspired by places she dreamed of visiting. Across the Atlantic, Daniel, a software engineer in New York, spent his days solving complex problems and creating innovative programs. Though their worlds were different, their hearts found a connection during a chance meeting at an art exhibition in Paris. The spark was instant. Emily's free-spirited nature and Daniel's calm, logical personality complemented each other perfectly. They spent hours walking through the streets of Paris, talking about their dreams, their fears, and their love for simple joys, like a good cup of coffee or a walk by the river. When their trip ended, they knew they didn't want to lose the bond they had created. But there was a challenge. Emily had to return to London, and Daniel had to head back to New York. It wasn't easy, but they made a promise to stay connected despite the distance. At first, things went smoothly. They video called every evening, updating each other on their days. Emily would show Daniel her latest paintings, and he would share stories about his projects at work. On weekends, they would watch the same movie or read the same book and discuss it over a call. But as weeks turned into months, the reality of their long-distance relationship began to sink in. The time difference of 5 hours was manageable at first, but soon, it started to feel like a wall between them. Emily often stayed up late, waiting for Daniel to finish his work, while Daniel woke up early, sacrificing his sleep to talk to Emily. Despite the effort, cracks began to appear. The connection that once felt magical started to feel strained. Both of them tried to stay optimistic, but their busy lives made it harder to maintain the same level of closeness. They began to question if love alone was enough to keep them together. Still, they held on to hope, believing that their bond was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. As time went on, the challenges of their long-distance relationship grew. Emily and Daniel still cared deeply for each other, but the cracks in their connection became more visible. The time difference that once felt like a minor inconvenience now seemed insurmountable. Emily often stayed up late, painting in her studio while waiting for Daniel's calls. But when his workdays grew longer, those calls became less frequent. "I'm sorry, Em. I had a late meeting," Daniel would say, his voice filled with exhaustion. Emily would smile and say it was okay, but deep down, she felt disappointed. One day, Emily decided to surprise Daniel by mailing him a painting she had made of the Eiffel Tower, the place where they had first met. She poured her heart into it, carefully packaging it and sending it to New York. Days passed, but there was no response. "Maybe he's busy," she told herself, trying to push away the nagging feeling of hurt. When Daniel finally called, Emily couldn't hold back. "Did you get my gift?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel hesitated before replying, "Oh, I did. I'm sorry, Em, I've been swamped. I haven't even had the chance to open it yet." Emily felt a pang of frustration. "It's not just about the painting, Daniel. It feels like we're drifting apart. Do you even care anymore?" Daniel, caught off guard, responded defensively. "Of course I care, Emily. But you know how demanding my job is. I'm trying my best." The argument escalated, and for the first time, They ended the call without saying, "I love you." The silence that followed was deafening. Days turned into a week, and neither of them reached out. Both were too hurt and too stubborn to take the first step. During this time, Emily confided in her best friend, Sarah, who listened patiently. "Maybe he's going through something, Em. Relationships aren't easy, especially from a distance. But if you love him, you have to fight for it." Meanwhile, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, staring at the unopened painting. He felt guilty and unsure of how to make things right. His love for Emily was unwavering, but he wondered if their relationship could withstand the miles and the misunderstandings. The week of silence was unbearable for both Emily and Daniel. Emily found herself staring at her phone, hoping for a message. Daniel, on the other hand, replayed their last conversation in his mind, regretting his words and the distance that had grown between them. Both knew they couldn't let their relationship end like this. One evening, Daniel decided it was time to act. He finally opened the package Emily had sent. Inside was the painting of the Eiffel Tower, a reminder of their first meeting. Tears welled up in his eyes as he noticed the little details Emily had included, like the small cafe where they'd shared their first laugh. Attached was a note: "No matter how far we are, you will always have my heart." Moved by her words, Daniel decided to surprise Emily. He worked late into the night on a video project, pouring all his feelings into it. The next day he sent her a message: "Check your email when you have time. I miss you, Em." Emily hesitated at first, unsure of what to expect, but her curiosity got the better of her. When she opened the video, she saw a montage of their memories, photos, video clips, and even a recording of Daniel narrating how much he loved her and valued their relationship. At the end of the video, he held up a handwritten sign: "Can we start over? I'll do better. I promise." Tears streamed down Emily's face. She knew Daniel was trying, and she realized she needed to try too. Without waiting, she called him. "Daniel, I'm sorry for how I reacted. I just felt so alone." "I'm sorry too, Em," Daniel said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I should have been more present. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." They talked for hours, setting new ground rules for their relationship. They decided to create a shared calendar for calls and agreed to set aside time every weekend for virtual dates. They even planned to learn a new skill together online, like cooking or photography, to keep their bond strong. In the end, they realized that love wasn't just about being together physically, it was about staying connected emotionally and making the effort to show you care. With renewed hope, they promised to keep fighting for their love, no matter the distance. What can we learn from Emily and Daniel's story? Their journey is not just about love, it's about the power of communication. Whether it's a relationship or learning a language, the key to success lies in staying consistent, expressing yourself clearly, and being open to growth. Think about how Emily and Daniel handled their challenges. They learned to listen to each other and express their feelings, even when it was difficult. This is a skill that applies to English learning too. Listening improves your understanding of words, phrases, and emotions, while speaking helps you build confidence and fluency. When Emily read Daniel's note or watched his heartfelt video, she was practicing an essential part of language learning, listening to understand, not just to reply. Similarly, when Daniel narrated his feelings, he chose words that were meaningful but simple, proving that even basic language can create powerful connections. For you, the lesson is clear: immerse yourself in English every day. Listen to stories, watch videos, and practice speaking with someone you trust. Remember, mistakes are not failures, they are steps toward growth. Just like Emily and Daniel didn't let their challenges define them, you shouldn't let fear hold you back. Start small, describe your day in English, ask questions, or tell someone a story. And remember, the more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Learning a language is like nurturing a relationship. It takes time, effort, and patience. So, what's your next step? Whether it's learning a new word or practicing a conversation, make it count. Because, just like Emily and Daniel's love, your journey with English has no limits, only possibilities. Thank you for watching Knowledge Drops. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you in the next story. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Imagine standing at the airport, holding your family close, with a mix of excitement and fear running through your veins. You've just left everything familiar, your home, your friends, your language, for a foreign land where everything feels different. The streets buzz with unfamiliar faces, signs you can't read, and words you struggle to understand. Sounds challenging, doesn't it? Today we're about to dive into the story of the Addams family. Adam, Sarah, and their 10-year-old daughter Emily. They made a bold decision to move to a new country for a better life. But there was one big obstacle in their way: the English language. Without it, everything from buying groceries to making friends felt like climbing a steep hill. Have you ever wondered how people adjust to such challenges? How do they turn struggles into success? For the Addams family, the journey was full of ups and downs, lessons and surprises. You'll hear how a small habit transformed their lives and gave them the confidence to thrive in their new world. And here's the twist: they didn't just learn English, they discovered how powerful listening and speaking skills can be in opening doors to opportunities they had never imagined. What was the secret behind their success? Stay with us as we explore their inspiring journey. The Addams family's journey to a new country began with a lot of hope and determination. Adam, the father, had spent months researching and planning the move. He believed that living in a place with better education and work opportunities would give his family a brighter future. Sarah, his wife, supported the decision wholeheartedly, even though it meant leaving behind their cozy home and close-knit community. For Emily, their 10-year-old daughter, it was a mix of excitement and fear. She couldn't wait to explore her new school but felt nervous about making new friends. When they landed at the airport, the first challenge hit them immediately. The announcements were in English, and they struggled to understand them. Adam approached an information desk to ask for directions, but his broken English made it hard to communicate. The person at the desk spoke slowly, repeating the instructions multiple times, but Adam still left feeling confused. Their first day in the new country was overwhelming. The streets were lively, with people speaking English everywhere. Emily pointed to a bakery and asked for a snack, but Sarah hesitated. She didn't know how to ask for the item in English. Instead, they left quietly, feeling out of place. Despite these struggles, the family was determined to adapt. They rented a small apartment in a busy neighborhood. The landlord, Mr. James, was kind but spoke only English, making even simple conversations difficult. Adam used gestures and a translation app to explain their needs. Sarah often watched from the sidelines, feeling frustrated at her inability to contribute. Emily's experience at school was no better. Her teacher, Mrs. Grace, welcomed her warmly, but Emily felt lost during lessons. The other children spoke fluent English, and Emily could only manage a few words. She spent her lunch breaks alone, watching her classmates from a distance. Every evening, the family would gather around their tiny dining table to discuss the day. They shared their struggles and laughed at their mistakes. "We'll learn," Adam said one night, his voice filled with determination. "Step by step, we'll make this work." Little did they know, their journey was just beginning. And while the challenges seemed endless, a turning point was just around the corner. As the days turned into weeks, the challenges for the Addams family seemed to grow. Adam, who had always been the family's provider, found it nearly impossible to secure a job. Every interview required fluent English, and his basic skills were not enough. He spent hours practicing responses with the help of an online translator, but his confidence crumbled during face-to-face conversations. "I just don't sound right," he would sigh, feeling defeated. Sarah, on the other hand, found her daily tasks to be equally daunting. Going grocery shopping, something that had always been simple, now felt like an uphill battle. She struggled to ask questions, often pointing at items or using gestures. Once, she accidentally bought salt instead of sugar because she couldn't read the label properly. Each mistake left her more hesitant to try again. Emily's struggles were perhaps the hardest to watch. At school, she felt like an outsider. Group activities were difficult because she couldn't understand the fast-paced conversations. During a class presentation, she froze, unable to form a single sentence in English. Some of her classmates whispered and giggled, making her feel even more isolated. At home, she burst into tears, saying, "Why can't I just fit in like everyone else?" The emotional toll on the family began to show. Adam stayed up late, applying for jobs he wasn't qualified for. Sarah avoided social situations entirely, afraid of embarrassing herself. Emily's grades started to slip, and her once cheerful personality became withdrawn. One evening, as the family sat together in their tiny living room, Adam spoke up. "We can't keep living like this," he said firmly. "We need to find a way to improve." Sarah agreed, though she wasn't sure where to start. "But how? We don't have money for expensive classes, and we don't know anyone who can help us," she replied. Emily, who had been quietly listening, suddenly had an idea. "My teacher said I should watch English cartoons to practice listening," she said. "Maybe we can do it together." It was a simple suggestion, but it sparked hope in all of them. They decided to make English learning a family activity. It wasn't an instant solution, but it was a start. With determination and a small plan in place, the Adams family was ready to take their first step toward change. The Adams family began their new routine with a mix of hope and hesitation. Every evening, after dinner, they gathered in their small living room. Emily took charge, switching on the TV to a popular children's cartoon show with subtitles. At first, the bright animations and cheerful voices seemed too childish for Adam and Sarah, but they quickly realized the simplicity of the dialogue made it easier to follow. Emily would pause the show after every line, helping her parents understand the words. "See, this character said, 'I want to go outside.' It's simple," she explained with a smile. Sarah repeated the sentence slowly, getting the hang of it. Adam, determined not to lag behind, practiced the same phrases with Emily correcting his pronunciation. The family also discovered new ways to improve their skills. Adam downloaded an app that played English conversations at a slow speed. On his way to job interviews, he listened carefully, mimicking the words under his breath. Sarah started labeling items in their apartment with sticky notes, writing their English names. Fridge, door, chair, she repeated the words while doing chores. The change in Emily was even more remarkable. She carried her new enthusiasm into the classroom. During a group activity, she surprised everyone by confidently introducing herself to her classmates. Mrs. Grace, her teacher, noticed the improvement and encouraged her to keep practicing. Emily's growing confidence inspired her to participate more, even volunteering to read aloud in class. One evening, a neighbor, Mr. Johnson, stopped by to introduce himself. He spoke to the family in English, and while the conversation was slow, it was the first time Adam and Sarah managed to hold a proper exchange without feeling overwhelmed. Mr. Johnson noticed their effort and offered to help. He invited Adam to join a local community group where members practiced English together. That invitation marked a turning point. Adam began attending the group, picking up useful phrases and learning to navigate conversations. Sarah, meanwhile, joined a cooking class where she practiced English with other participants. Emily continued to shine at school, forming her first friendships since their move. The family's efforts were paying off. Slowly but surely, they were beginning to feel less like strangers and more like part of their new community. Months passed, and the Adams family's hard work finally began to bear fruit. Adam's English skills had improved drastically. He was now able to communicate clearly in job interviews, and soon, he was offered a position at a local company. The role wasn't exactly what he had dreamed of, but it was a start, and it gave him a sense of accomplishment. The first time he received his paycheck, he held it in his hand and smiled. It wasn't just the money, it was proof of how far they had come. Sarah's confidence also grew. The cooking class had become her favorite way to practice English. She had made several friends there, and soon, she started helping others learn basic English phrases. Her interactions with the neighbors became more comfortable, and she even organized a small gathering to share a homemade meal. "I never thought I could do this," Sarah would say with a laugh, looking at the table filled with food and friends. Emily's transformation was the most remarkable of all. Her grades improved steadily, and she was no longer shy about speaking in class. One day, Mrs. Grace praised her during a lesson. "Emily has made excellent progress in such a short time," she said in front of the class. Emily's face lit up, and for the first time since their move, she felt truly proud of herself. The family celebrated small victories, each one a sign of how much they had achieved together. Adam's new job gave them more financial security, and they started to enjoy simple pleasures like going out for weekend walks and visiting local parks. They no longer felt like outsiders in their new country, they felt like part of the community. The language barrier was no longer a heavy weight holding them back. Instead, it had become a stepping stone to greater opportunities and deeper connections. Adam had learned that English wasn't just about speaking, it was about listening and understanding too. He began to appreciate how small conversations could lead to bigger opportunities. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Adam looked at Sarah and Emily with a grateful smile. "We've come a long way," he said. "And it's just the beginning." Indeed, it was. Their journey had only started, but they had learned the most important lesson of all: the power of language to open doors and transform lives. The Adams family's journey from struggle to success was not easy, but it was one filled with determination, hope, and hard work. They had arrived in a foreign country with little more than a dream and the willingness to start anew. The challenges they faced were many: the language barrier, the feeling of isolation, the fear of failure. But through it all they supported each other, learning together and growing stronger with each passing day. Their story is a reminder of how important learning English is, not just for communication, but for integration and success in a new environment. It's about more than just knowing the words. It's about connecting with people, understanding the culture, and building a future. English became the key to unlocking new opportunities for Adam, Sarah, and Emily. Today, as they look back, the Adams family sees how far they've come. From the nervous immigrants who struggle to understand simple phrases, they've transformed into a confident family, proud of the life they've built in their new home. Their story is proof that with patience, effort, and the right attitude, language barriers can be broken, and new beginnings can lead to extraordinary successes. For anyone facing similar struggles, the Adams family's journey offers hope. Language might seem like a challenge, but with determination and support, it's a challenge that can be overcome. The road to success might be long, but every step taken is a step toward a brighter future. The key is to never give up and to remember that every mistake is just another lesson learned along the way. The Adams family's journey is far from over, but they have learned that as long as they keep moving forward, nothing is impossible. Their story continues, and with each new day, they grow closer to their dreams. This journey, filled with twists and turns, is a reminder that success isn't about the destination, it's about the steps we take along the way. Imagine this. A young man sits beside his father, who's lying on a hospital bed. The air feels heavy, filled with words that haven't been said. Memories start to flood his mind, moments they shared, lessons he learned, and the bond that shaped his life. He's searching for the perfect words to say goodbye, but how do you sum up a lifetime in just one conversation? Sounds emotional, doesn't it? But there's more to this story than just sadness. There's love, gratitude, and even a twist that will make you think about the power of relationships in a whole new way. This story will not only touch your heart, but also help you practice English in a natural and engaging way. As you listen, pay attention to the phrases, the expressions, and the emotions behind the words. You'll see how simple sentences can carry deep meaning. So stay tuned, and let's dive into this unforgettable story. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, filling the silence in the room. James sat on a small chair next to the hospital bed, his hands clasped tightly together. His father, Mr. Robert Allen, lay there, pale but peaceful, hooked up to machines that beeped softly. The room felt cold, not because of the air conditioning, but because of the weight of the moment. James stared at his father's frail hands, once strong enough to carry him on his shoulders. His heart ached as he realized this might be their last day together. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink. But inside the room, time seemed to stand still. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. How do you say goodbye to the man who had been your guide, your teacher, and your hero? He felt a lump in his throat as memories started to swirl in his mind. His father opened his eyes slowly and smiled faintly. It was a smile that carried years of love, patience, and understanding. James leaned closer, unsure of what to say. "Dad," he began, his voice trembling, I don't know how to do this." Robert's voice was weak but steady. "You don't have to say anything, son. Just being here is enough." The simplicity of his father's words made James feel even more emotional. He wanted to tell him everything, how much he loved him, how grateful he was for all the sacrifices he had made. But before he could speak, Robert closed his eyes again, and James decided to let him rest. As the minutes passed, James looked around the room. On the bedside table was a small framed photograph of their family. It was from a summer trip to the mountains when he was just a boy. Everyone looked so happy, especially his father, who had his arm around James's shoulder. That memory brought a bittersweet smile to his face. He realized that even though his father was fading, the love and lessons he had given would always remain. James took a deep breath, preparing himself for what was to come. James's mind drifted back to a warm summer day when he was 8 years old. It was one of those rare Sundays when his father had taken a break from work. They had packed a picnic and driven to the nearby lake. The memory was vivid, as if it had happened just yesterday. "Come on, James. Hold the rod steady," his father had said, his voice filled with encouragement. James was struggling with his fishing rod, frustrated that he couldn't catch anything while his father seemed so calm. "I can't do it, Dad." James had whined, tears welling up in his eyes. Robert knelt down beside him and placed a firm but gentle hand on his shoulder. "James, listen to me. Patience is the key. Fishing is not about the fish, it's about the experience. Let's try again together." James sniffled but nodded, determined to try one more time. His father guided his hands, and after a few moments, they felt a tug. "You've got one, son," Robert exclaimed. James's face lit up as he reeled in a small fish. "I did it, Dad. I caught one," he shouted with joy. His father laughed, a deep and hearty sound that James would never forget. "That's my boy," Robert had said, ruffling James's hair. "Remember, life is like fishing. Sometimes you have to wait, but the reward is worth it." Another memory surfaced, this time from James's teenage years. He had just failed his math exam and was too scared to tell his father. But Robert found the results slip and came to his room with a calm expression. "James, "Do you think one failure defines you?" he had asked. James shook his head, unable to meet his father's eyes. "Good. Because I don't think so either," Robert continued. "Failures are just stepping stones. Learn from this, and next time, you'll do better. I believe in you." Those words had stayed with James throughout his life. Every time he faced a challenge, he could hear his father's voice, reminding him to keep going. As the flashbacks ended, James found himself smiling through the tears. His father had been more than a parent. He had been a guide, a mentor, and his greatest supporter. The sun had disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the hospital room bathed in the soft glow of twilight. James sat quietly, the weight of unspoken words pressing heavily on his chest. He knew time was slipping away, and this might be his last chance to say what he had always wanted to. Taking a deep breath, he reached for his father's hand. It felt colder than before, and the realization sent a pang through his heart. He looked at his father, who slowly opened his eyes and gave him a faint smile. "Dad," James began, his voice trembling, "I don't think I ever told you this, but you've been my hero my whole life." Robert's lips curved into a gentle smile, though his breathing was shallow. "You've made me proud, James. Always." James felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say more, but his emotions threatened to overwhelm him. Memories of his father teaching him to fish, comforting him after failures, and cheering him on at school events flooded his mind. "I'm scared, Dad," James admitted, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I don't know how to say goodbye. I don't even know how to imagine life without you." His father's hand tightened around his ever so slightly, and his voice, though weak, was steady. "James, life is not about holding on forever. It's about cherishing the moments we share. And I know you'll carry those moments with you." James wiped his tears, his father's words offering a bittersweet comfort. "I'll never forget everything you taught me, Dad. I promise to live a life you'll be proud of." A peaceful silence filled the room for a moment, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the machines. Then, with surprising clarity, Robert spoke again, his voice soft but filled with love. "One last lesson, son. Be happy. Life is too short to dwell on sadness." James nodded, unable to speak. His father's eyes closed slowly, a serene expression on his face, as if he had found his own peace. The room grew quieter, and James realized it was the end. Holding his father's hand, he whispered, "Goodbye, Dad. Thank you for everything." As James walked out of the hospital that night, the cool breeze brushed against his face, carrying with it a strange mix of grief and gratitude. The stars sparkled faintly above, as if reminding him that life, like the night sky, was a blend of light and darkness. His father was gone, but the lessons he had imparted remained deeply etched in James's heart. The fishing trip, the moments of encouragement, the advice during tough times, all of these were not just memories. They were building blocks of the person James had become. In life, we often take our relationships for granted. We get caught up in our routines, forgetting to express our gratitude to the people who shape us. But as James learned, it's never too late to say what truly matters. His father's final lesson, "Be happy," echoed in his mind. For you, the listener, this story carries a powerful message. Cherish the moments you have with your loved ones. Take the time to express your love and gratitude while you can. Life is unpredictable, and what seems ordinary today might become your most treasured memory tomorrow. From an English learning perspective, this story also teaches us how powerful words can be. Words don't have to be fancy or complex to be meaningful. Sometimes, the simplest sentences carry the deepest emotions. When James said, "You've been my hero," those words were more powerful than 1,000 poetic lines. As you practice your English, think about how you can use simple language to express your thoughts and emotions. Focus on clarity and connection. That's what makes conversations and stories truly memorable. So, what will you take away from this story? Will it inspire you to call a loved one and share how much they mean to you? Or will it encourage you to reflect on the lessons you've learned from those who've shaped your life? Remember, every goodbye carries a hidden blessing. It reminds us to value the moments we still have and the people who make them special. Thank you for listening to The Last Goodbye. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep cherishing the people around you. Have you ever imagined creating something that could change the world? What if you had the chance to invent something truly incredible, but you had to do it with a group of people, each with different ideas and skills? That's exactly what happened to Emma, Jack, Sophia, and Liam. These 4 students found themselves facing an exciting challenge, one that could test their creativity, teamwork, and communication skills. In today's story, we'll follow this team of dreamers as they compete in a science fair. Their goal? To create a groundbreaking invention that solves a real-world problem. But as you'll see, the road to success isn't always smooth. Along the way, they'll face obstacles that will challenge their ability to work together. Why is this story special for you? Because it's not just about building something amazing, it's also about the importance of listening and speaking skills. You'll notice how the characters express their ideas, resolve conflicts, and present their project, all in simple, clear English. And here's the twist. Everything seems to be going well until an unexpected problem threatens to ruin their hard work. How will they handle it? Will they rise to the challenge or fall apart? Stay tuned, because this story isn't just entertaining. It's a lesson in teamwork, communication, and believing in yourself. Let's dive in. It was a sunny Monday morning when Emma walked into the classroom and noticed a large poster on the notice board. The words Annual Science Fair, Invent the Future, were printed in bold, catching her attention immediately. She quickly called her friends, Jack, Sophia, and Liam, to take a closer look. The teacher, Mr. Carter, entered the room with a smile and announced, "This year's science fair is going to be bigger than ever. Your challenge is to create an invention that solves a real-world problem. The winning team will receive a special prize and an opportunity to present their invention at the regional competition." Excitement filled the room as students began talking about their ideas. Emma, being the natural leader of her group, turned to her friends and said, "We have to do this. It's a chance to create something meaningful." Jack, the tech genius, nodded but hesitated. "It sounds amazing, but it won't be easy. We need a strong idea." Sophia, always the creative thinker, smiled. "We can come up with something brilliant if we work together." Liam, the motivator, added, "Let's focus on solving a problem that really matters. We can do this." After school, they gathered in Emma's backyard to brainstorm. They knew the competition would be tough, but they were determined to give it their best shot. The announcement wasn't just exciting, it was a call to action. The team felt inspired to make a difference, but little did they know that the journey ahead would test their patience, creativity, and friendship. The group sat around a small wooden table in Emma's backyard, a large notebook lying open in the center. Emma began, "All right, let's think big. What's a problem we can solve with our invention?" Jack adjusted his glasses and said, "What about pollution? It's a global problem, and we could create something to help the environment." Sophia clapped her hands. "That's a great idea. What if we build a robot that cleans polluted water? Think about how many people could benefit from it." Liam's face lit up. "Yes, but it should be powered by renewable energy. Maybe solar power? That way, it's eco-friendly." Emma quickly started jotting down their ideas. "A water-cleaning robot powered by the sun, this could work. We just need to figure out how to make it unique and practical." Over the next hour, the group bounced ideas back and forth. Sophia suggested a sleek design that would allow the robot to float on water. Jack proposed using sensors to detect pollutants. Liam added motivational words to keep everyone focused. Remember, he said, our goal isn't just to win but to make something that really helps people. By the end of their meeting, the team had a rough plan. The robot would collect polluted water, filter out harmful substances, and release clean water back into the environment, all powered by solar panels on its surface. Emma looked around at her friends, her excitement growing. This is it. We've got a solid idea. Now we just need to bring it to life. But as they would soon discover, turning their idea into reality wasn't going to be as simple as they thought. The team started building their robot the very next day. Jack took the lead in assembling the hardware, while Sophia worked on the design. Emma researched how to create an efficient water filtration system, and Liam kept everyone motivated with his positive attitude. At first, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Jack managed to install the sensors, and Sophia crafted a sleek, lightweight design for the robot. Emma's filtration system prototype worked well in small tests. They were making progress, but their confidence was soon shaken. One evening, during a test run, the robot malfunctioned. The solar panels weren't generating enough power, and the filtration system jammed after a few minutes of use. The robot stopped moving and began sinking in their test pool. Sophia threw her hands in the air. This isn't working. We're running out of time, and nothing is going as planned. Jack sighed, his shoulders slumping. I knew this would be harder than it looked. Maybe we aimed too high. Even Emma, who was usually optimistic, looked frustrated. What if we can't fix it? The science fair is just a week away. Liam stepped in, his voice calm but firm. Guys, listen. Every great invention has its challenges. We can't give up now. Let's figure out what went wrong and fix it together. His words sparked a new sense of determination in the group. They decided to work late into the night, troubleshooting every problem. Jack replaced the solar panels with more efficient ones. Emma redesigned the filtration system to handle larger amounts of water. Sophia added buoyancy features to prevent the robot from sinking. By the time they were done, their robot was better than ever. But the real test was yet to come, the presentation at the science fair. The day of the science fair arrived, and the school gym buzzed with excitement. Rows of colorful booths showcased various projects, from miniature volcanoes to solar-powered cars. Emma's team set up their booth, placing their robot, named AquaClean, at the center. A poster behind it displayed their slogan, Clean Water, Bright Future. As the judges approached, Emma felt her hands trembling. Remember, Liam whispered, speak slowly and clearly. We've got this. She nodded and took a deep breath. Emma started the presentation with a confident smile. Good morning. We're here to present AquaClean, a robot that cleans polluted water using solar power. It's designed to help communities that struggle with access to clean water. Jack demonstrated the robot's features. AquaClean uses advanced sensors to detect pollutants. Once water enters, it filters out harmful substances, leaving it safe for use. And since it runs on solar power, it's completely eco-friendly. Sophia added, its lightweight design allows it to float easily, and the added buoyancy ensures it doesn't sink, even in strong currents. The judges listened intently, occasionally nodding or asking questions. One judge asked, "What inspired you to create this invention?" Liam answered with a warm smile, "We wanted to make something meaningful that could address a real-world problem. AquaClean isn't just a project for us, it's a step toward a better future." When the demonstration ended, the robot performed perfectly, filtering a sample of dirty water and producing clean water on the spot. The judges looked impressed, but the team couldn't be sure if they had done enough to win. As they packed up their booth, Emma whispered, "Even if we don't win, I'm proud of what we created. We worked together, solved problems, and made something amazing." Later that afternoon, the announcement everyone had been waiting for finally came. The gym grew silent as Mr. Carter stepped onto the stage with a list of winners. And the first prize for this year's science fair goes to Team AquaClean. The team erupted in cheers, hugging each other as they walked up to accept their trophy. The judges praised their innovative idea and teamwork, calling AquaClean a project with real-world potential. But for Emma, Jack, Sophia, and Liam, the victory wasn't just about the trophy. It was about everything they had learned during the journey. They had discovered the importance of listening to one another, speaking up when they had ideas, and staying positive even when things went wrong. As they left the gym, Liam said, "Winning feels amazing, but what I'm most proud of is how we never gave up." Emma smiled. "And we learned how powerful communication can be. Without good teamwork and clear ideas, AquaClean wouldn't exist." Their story wasn't just about creating an invention, it was about learning skills that would last a lifetime. The team knew that no matter where life took them, they would always remember the lessons they learned together. Imagine walking into a place so quiet that you can hear the sound of your own footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. The air smells of old paper and dust, and the light is dim, creating an almost magical atmosphere. But what if I told you this isn't just an ordinary place? Today we are going to step into the world of books, a world where secrets are hidden, waiting to be discovered. In this story, you'll meet a curious boy named Oliver. He's not your everyday child. Oliver loves exploring and asking questions. One day, his adventures take him to an old library that looks like it hasn't been visited in years. What he finds there will surprise you, and maybe even change the way you think about books. But here's the twist. This isn't just about books. It's about treasures hidden in plain sight. As you listen, you'll discover how important it is to sharpen your English listening skills. Why? Because listening to English is not just about understanding words. It's about opening new doors to exciting opportunities, much like Oliver discovers in our story. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why improving your English listening can be fun and rewarding. So, are you ready to join Oliver on his mysterious adventure? Let's dive in and uncover the hidden treasures in the library. Oliver was always curious about the world around him. While most children spent their afternoons playing games or watching TV, Oliver loved exploring. One sunny afternoon, as he wandered through the streets of his small town, he noticed something unusual, a tall iron gate, partly hidden behind overgrown vines. Beyond the gate, he could see the roof of an old building that seemed to whisper stories of its own. The gate creaked loudly as Oliver pushed it open, stepping into a yard filled with wildflowers and broken stone paths. At the end of the path stood a building, a library. It looked ancient, with cracked windows and a door that seemed like it hadn't been opened in years. His heart raced with excitement. Who could resist such a mysterious place? He stepped inside, his shoes echoing on the wooden floor. The air was cool, and the smell of old books filled the room. Shelves towered over him, crammed with books of all shapes and sizes. Dust floated lazily in the sunlight streaming through the cracked windows. As Oliver walked deeper into the library, he noticed something strange. The books on the shelves seemed untouched, yet the room felt alive. Suddenly, he heard a faint whisper. It was soft at first, almost like the rustling of pages, but it grew louder. "Oliver," the voice called. He froze. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice shaky. There was no answer. Curious yet cautious, he moved toward the sound. That's when he saw it, a large leather-bound book lying open on a table in the corner. The cover was decorated with golden patterns, and its title read Secrets of the Hidden World. Oliver hesitated for a moment before reaching out to touch the book. As soon as his fingers brushed the pages, the room seemed to shift. The whispers grew louder, and the light around him dimmed. Something extraordinary was about to happen, and Oliver couldn't turn back now. Oliver's hands trembled as he flipped the first page of Secrets of the Hidden World. The whispers around him softened, replaced by a low hum that seemed to come from the book itself. He leaned closer, and before he could process what was happening, a bright light burst from the pages, wrapping around him like a warm cocoon. When the light faded, Oliver found himself standing in a completely different place. Gone was the dusty library. He was now on the deck of a ship, surrounded by endless blue waves. The sky above was painted with hues of orange and pink as the sun began to set. A sailor with a thick beard and a wide smile approached him. "Welcome aboard, young adventurer," the sailor said in a cheerful tone. "I'm Captain Jonah, and I'll be your guide. Are you ready for your treasure hunt?" Oliver nodded, unsure of what to say. Captain Jonah handed him a map marked with strange symbols. "Follow the map, and you'll find treasures beyond your wildest dreams," the captain said. "But beware, the journey won't be easy. You'll need courage, patience, and a sharp mind." As Oliver studied the map, he noticed that the path wasn't straightforward. It required solving puzzles and making choices. Each decision led to a new challenge. First, he had to find a key hidden inside a cave guarded by a talking parrot. The parrot asked him riddles in simple English, and Oliver had to listen carefully to understand and answer. Next, he navigated through a forest where every tree whispered clues about the right direction. "Listen closely," the trees said, their voices calm and clear. Oliver realized he had to focus, just like when practicing English listening skills, to make sense of what was being said. Finally, the map led him to a hidden chest buried beneath a sparkling waterfall. With the captain's help, Oliver opened the chest. Inside, instead of gold or jewels, he found glowing books. Each book radiated knowledge, imagination, and wisdom. But before Oliver could fully understand the significance of the treasure, the ground beneath him began to shake. The adventure wasn't over yet. As the ground shook beneath him, Oliver instinctively grabbed one of the glowing books from the chest. The moment his fingers touched the cover, he was pulled into its pages. The world spun around him, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself standing on the deck of another ship. But this time, it wasn't Captain Jonah's vessel. The ship was enormous, and its sails glowed with the colors of the sunset. A tall man with a weathered face approached him, carrying a spyglass. "I'm Marcus, the navigator," he said with a kind smile. "The sea is vast and unpredictable, just like life. If you want to succeed, you must learn how to navigate challenges." Marcus handed Oliver the spyglass and pointed toward the horizon. "Look closely," he said. Through the glass, Oliver saw storm clouds forming in the distance. "The storms represent difficulties," Marcus explained. "But remember, every storm passes. Stay focused, and you'll find your way through." As Marcus's lesson ended, Oliver was transported into another scene. This time, he was in a grand laboratory filled with bubbling potions and glowing gadgets. A woman in a white coat greeted him. "I'm Dr. Evelyn, a scientist," she said. "Curiosity is your greatest tool. Ask questions, experiment, and never stop learning. That's how you discover the truth." Dr. Evelyn handed Oliver a small vial of liquid and asked him to mix it with another. As he carefully followed her instructions, the liquid changed colors, glowing brightly. "You see," she said, "when you approach life with curiosity and care, you create something extraordinary." The final lesson took place in a beautiful castle. A kind queen named Eleanor welcomed him with open arms. "The greatest treasure," she said, "is not what you own, but how you treat others. Empathy and kindness can change the world." Oliver watched as Queen Eleanor helped her people, listening to their concerns and solving their problems with wisdom and compassion. Her actions inspired him deeply. Each story taught Oliver something important: perseverance, curiosity, and kindness. But what did these lessons mean for him in the real world? As the lessons from the stories filled Oliver's mind, he suddenly felt a strong pull, like an invisible hand guiding him back. The glowing books around him began to swirl, creating a vortex of light. Before he could say goodbye to the characters he had met, everything around him faded, and he found himself back in the old library. He blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light. The large book, Secrets of the Hidden World, lay closed on the table, its golden patterns shimmering faintly. For a moment, Oliver wondered if it had all been a dream. But when he looked at his hands, he noticed faint, glowing marks, symbols from the stories he had just lived. As he sat down, trying to process what had happened, the library seemed to come alive again. Shelves creaked, and the soft rustling of pages echoed through the room. Oliver realized the library wasn't just a collection of books. It was a portal to knowledge, experiences, and wisdom. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You've learned well, young seeker," it said. Oliver turned to see an old librarian with kind eyes and a knowing smile. "The treasures you found were not gold or jewels, but lessons. Those lessons will guide you through life." Oliver nodded, his heart full of gratitude. "But how do I use them?" he asked. The librarian chuckled softly. "Start with small steps. Use your curiosity to learn something new every day. Practice kindness in your words and actions. And most importantly, never give up when life gets tough." As he prepared to leave the library, Oliver noticed something he hadn't seen before, a small door behind the shelves, glowing faintly. The librarian smiled. "Every time you return, new treasures await," she said. Oliver walked out of the library, the lessons from his adventure etched into his heart. He knew his journey had just begun. Each day, he would listen more carefully, speak more kindly, and embrace the challenges life threw his way. And with every step, he carried the wisdom of the library with him, ready to share it with the world. As Oliver stepped out of the mysterious library, the world around him seemed brighter, more vibrant. He no longer saw the old streets and familiar faces the same way. Every sound, every word, and every interaction now felt like a part of a larger story, a story he was eager to explore. The lessons he learned from the books stayed with him. He began to pay closer attention when people spoke, practicing the same focus he used to solve the riddles and follow the clues. Oliver realized that English, much like the challenges he faced in the library, was about listening carefully and responding thoughtfully. He started small, listening to stories and songs in English and repeating the words until they felt natural. He practiced speaking with his friends, sharing the adventures he had experienced, and encouraging them to discover their own treasures in learning. Slowly but surely, his confidence grew. Oliver also embraced the importance of kindness, curiosity, and perseverance. Whether helping a friend with a question, asking new ones of his own, or working through a difficult task, he carried the treasures of the library in his heart. And though he didn't return to the library right away, Oliver knew it would always be there, a magical place where every visit offered something new to learn. So just like Oliver, remember that every story, every lesson, and every word you learn in English is a treasure waiting to make your life richer and brighter. Keep exploring. Have you ever been in a situation where you said something, and people completely misunderstood you? Maybe you used the wrong word, or your pronunciation wasn't clear, and the result? Something funny or maybe even awkward happened. Well, today, I have a story for you that will make you laugh and at the same time, teach you an important lesson about English listening and speaking. The story is called The Restaurant Mix-Up, and it's all about a small miscommunication that turned into a big, unforgettable moment. Now, here's the twist. This isn't just any misunderstanding. It's the kind of story that will make you realize how important pronunciation and listening are when learning English. You'll see how even a small mistake can lead to a lot of confusion, and how practicing these skills can save you from these tricky but funny situations. And let me tell you, by the end of this story, you'll have not just a good laugh but also a fresh perspective on why it's important to listen carefully and ask for clarification when needed. So if you've ever struggled with speaking or understanding English, this story is for you. Stay tuned, it's going to be both fun and meaningful. It was a busy evening at a small but charming restaurant in town. The place was buzzing with activity as people enjoyed their meals, chatted with friends, and laughed over shared stories. Among the staff was Alex, a young and eager waiter who had recently started working there. Alex was full of energy and enthusiasm, but there was one thing he struggled with: his English. Alex had been practicing his English every day, listening to videos and repeating words to get his pronunciation right. But in real-life situations, things weren't always as easy as they seemed during practice. On this particular evening, Alex was determined to do his best and impress his customers. Lisa, a friendly customer, walked into the restaurant and took a seat by the window. She was polite, with a warm smile that made Alex feel slightly less nervous. As he approached her table with a notepad in hand, he greeted her with confidence. "Good evening, ma'am. What can I get for you today?" Alex asked, trying to sound professional. Lisa smiled and replied, "I'd like a glass of water, please." Alex paused for a moment. The restaurant was noisy, and he wasn't sure if he had heard her correctly. "You want an otter?" he asked, his brow furrowing in confusion. Lisa chuckled, thinking Alex was joking. "Yes, sure," she said with a laugh, not realizing the misunderstanding. Alex nodded, feeling proud that he had understood the order. He quickly walked back to the kitchen, ready to inform the chef. What happened next was something neither Alex nor Lisa could have predicted. As Alex entered the kitchen, he was still replaying the word in his head. "Otter," he mumbled to himself, unsure if it was some kind of trendy new drink or dish he hadn't heard of before. He didn't want to appear clueless, so he decided to trust his ears. "Chef, the lady at table 5 wants an otter," Alex announced confidently. The chef, a middle-aged man with years of experience, stopped chopping vegetables and turned to Alex with a puzzled look. "An otter? Are you sure?" Alex nodded, trying to hide his hesitation. "Yes, that's what she said. Maybe it's some fancy thing people are into these days." The chef scratched his head, then shrugged. "Well, I don't know what that means, but let's improvise. Fancy customers love surprises." He decided to prepare a dish that looked unique, something with a colorful dessert topped with chocolate art. Meanwhile, Lisa sat at her table, expecting a simple glass of water. She noticed Alex moving back and forth, looking both confident and nervous, and wondered what he was up to. When Alex finally brought the dish to her table, Lisa's eyes widened in surprise. Instead of water, she was served a beautifully decorated plate with a strange-looking dessert. "Oh, what is this?" Lisa asked, trying to stay polite. Alex grinned proudly. "Your otter, ma'am." Lisa stared at him, confused. "Otter? I asked for water." In that moment, Alex's face turned red. He realized his mistake and felt both embarrassed and amused. Lisa, however, burst into laughter. "This is the most creative misunderstanding I've ever experienced." Alex stood frozen for a moment, holding the plate with the colorful dessert, unsure of what to say. His embarrassment was written all over his face. Lisa, however, couldn't stop laughing. Her laughter was contagious, and soon Alex started laughing nervously too. "I'm so sorry," Alex said, placing the plate on the table. "I thought you said otter. This is so embarrassing. I've been practicing my English, but I guess I still make mistakes." Lisa wiped away a tear of laughter and smiled warmly. "Alex, it's okay. Honestly, this has made my evening. It's not every day you get served an otter at a restaurant." Alex chuckled, feeling a little more at ease. I really want to improve my English, but sometimes, when it's noisy or I'm nervous, I just mishear things. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. You know, you're not alone. Misunderstandings happen to everyone, especially when learning a new language. But do you know what helps the most? Alex looked at her curiously. What's that? Listening carefully, Lisa replied. When you're unsure, don't be afraid to ask the other person to repeat themselves. It's much better to confirm than to guess. Alex nodded. You're right. I should have asked again instead of assuming. Lisa encouraged him further. And don't be hard on yourself. You're doing great. Every mistake is just a step toward improvement. Plus, this little mix-up made for a good laugh, didn't it? Alex smiled, feeling a sense of relief. It did. Thank you for being so understanding. I'll make sure to listen more carefully next time. As Lisa took a sip of the water Alex finally brought her, she said, You're learning, and that's what matters. Keep practicing. The incident became a turning point for Alex. That evening, after the restaurant closed, he couldn't stop thinking about what Lisa had said. Her advice about listening carefully and asking for clarification resonated deeply with him. The next day, Alex decided to take action. He started his morning by watching English videos with subtitles, paying close attention to how words were pronounced. He practiced repeating sentences out loud, focusing on clarity and confidence. But he didn't stop there. During his shift at the restaurant, he made it a point to ask customers politely to repeat themselves if he wasn't sure about something. Could you please say that again? Or do you mean this or that? Became phrases he used often. At first, he felt nervous about asking, but to his surprise, most people appreciated his efforts. They smiled and repeated their orders, and some even encouraged him by complimenting his dedication to learning. One evening, Lisa returned to the restaurant. She recognized Alex immediately and waved. Hey Alex. How's it going? Alex smiled brightly. Hi Lisa. It's going much better, thanks to you. I've been practicing, and I've learned to ask when I'm unsure. Lisa was impressed. That's great to hear. So no more otters, huh? She teased, laughing. Alex laughed too. No more otters, just water this time. Lisa nodded approvingly. You know, Alex, this shows how small steps can lead to big improvements. It's not about being perfect, it's about trying and learning every day. For Alex, the misunderstanding with Lisa had turned into a valuable lesson about communication. It wasn't just about speaking English, it was about connecting with people, learning from mistakes, and growing with confidence. The story of Alex and Lisa leaves us with more than just a funny memory. It teaches a powerful lesson about language learning. Mistakes are not failures, they are opportunities to grow. Alex's journey from embarrassment to improvement shows that persistence and a willingness to learn can turn any challenge into success. For many of us, speaking and listening in English can feel intimidating. We might worry about mispronouncing words or not understanding what others say. But Alex's story reminds us that it's okay to ask for clarification and to make mistakes. In fact, those little errors can lead to some of the best learning moments. So what can we take away from this? First, listening is just as important as speaking. When you truly listen to someone, you not only understand their words, but also their meaning. Second, never be afraid to ask questions. If you're unsure about something, asking politely can clear up confusion and show that you care about getting it right. And lastly, remember that language learning is a journey, not a race. It's about making progress every day, no matter how small. Like Alex, you can turn every misunderstanding into an opportunity to grow. So the next time you face a funny or awkward situation while speaking English, don't feel discouraged. Instead, laugh it off, learn from it, and keep practicing. As Lisa said, it's not about being perfect, It's about trying and improving step by step. Thank you for watching this story on Knowledge Drops. If you enjoyed it and found it helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, every word you learn brings you closer to mastering English. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep learning. See you in the next video. Have you ever imagined a perfect day at the beach? A warm sun above, the cool breeze in your hair, and the gentle sound of waves crashing against the shore? Sounds amazing, doesn't it? But wait, what if this fun day could also help you improve your English? Yes, that's right. Today, we are going to take a trip to the beach, not just to relax, but to learn. In this story, you will join Emma and Ryan, two friends who decide to spend a sunny day at the beach. Along the way, you will learn new English words like sand, waves, sunscreen, and many more. This will help you speak and listen to English more easily. But here's the twist. What happens when Emma and Ryan forget something very important at the beach? Will their day still be fun, or will this mistake ruin their plans? You'll have to stick around to find out. So, are you ready to improve your English while enjoying a fun and realistic story? Let's dive in and experience a day at the beach. By the end of this video, you will know how to use these new words in your conversations. Let's get started. Emma and Ryan were excited about their beach trip. It was a warm Saturday morning, and the sky was clear and blue. As Emma sipped her coffee, she said, "Ryan, we need to pack everything carefully. We don't want to forget anything important." Ryan nodded and grabbed a large bag from the closet. "All right, let's start with the basics," he said. He began listing items out loud to make sure they didn't miss anything. Towels, sunscreen, sunglasses, and an umbrella. Did I miss anything? Emma smiled and added, "Don't forget the cooler. We need cold drinks and some snacks. A day at the beach isn't complete without those." Ryan walked to the kitchen and filled the cooler with bottles of water, soda, and sandwiches. "I think that's everything," he said confidently, placing the cooler in the bag. Emma double-checked the bag and said, "What about the kite? We can fly it if the breeze is strong enough." Ryan quickly ran to fetch the kite from the shelf. Finally, Emma picked up a book from the table. "This will be my companion while you're busy building sandcastles," she teased. With everything packed, they were ready to go. Emma put on her hat, and Ryan grabbed the car keys. "Let's make this day unforgettable," Ryan said as they stepped out of the house. The two friends were excited about their adventure, not knowing that they had forgotten something very important in their preparations. But for now, the excitement of the beach trip filled their hearts. As Emma and Ryan reached the beach, the sight before them was breathtaking. The golden sand stretched endlessly, and the waves gently kissed the shore. The air smelled fresh, a mix of salt water and summer. Ryan parked the car, and Emma stepped out, feeling the warm sun on her skin. "This place is beautiful," Emma exclaimed, slipping off her shoes. She dug her toes into the soft sand, enjoying its warmth. Ryan grabbed their bag and said, "Let's find a good spot." They walked along the shore, looking for the perfect place to set up. Soon, they found a spot under a tall coconut tree. "This is perfect," Ryan said, spreading the large beach towel on the sand. As they settled in, Emma couldn't help but admire the waves. "Do you hear that?" she asked. "The sound of the waves is so calming." Ryan smiled and replied, "It's like music, isn't it?" They set up their umbrella for shade and placed the cooler next to them. Emma took out her book, while Ryan sat back, enjoying the gentle breeze. Around them, families were building sandcastles, children were laughing, and seagulls flew overhead. A little boy nearby ran past them with a kite, making Ryan chuckle. "We should fly hours later," he said. Emma nodded, her eyes still on the waves. The sun sparkled on the water, and Emma and Ryan felt completely relaxed. "This is exactly what we needed," Emma said with a content smile. But as they were enjoying the moment, they didn't realize a small mistake from earlier was about to cause a little trouble. After relaxing for a while, Emma and Ryan decided it was time to enjoy the beach. Ryan pulled out the kite from their bag and said, "Let's see if we can make this fly." The wind was perfect. Ryan ran along the sand, and the colorful kite soared high into the sky. "Look at it go!" Ryan exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. Emma clapped and cheered, "You're a pro, Ryan." Not wanting to be left out, Emma suggested, "How about we build a sandcastle next?" They dug their hands into the sand, molding towers and carving windows. "This is harder than I thought," Emma said, laughing as part of the castle collapsed. Ryan joked, "We might not be architects, but it's fun trying." Once their masterpiece was done, they stepped back to admire it. "Not bad for beginners," Ryan said, brushing sand off his hands. "Feeling hot after their activities," Emma said. "Let's cool off by the water." They walked towards the waves, letting the cool water touch their feet. Emma giggled as a small wave splashed up her legs. "It's colder than I expected," she said. Ryan bent down, scooping up some water in his hands. "It's refreshing though," he said. "I feel like I could stay here forever." Nearby, kids were collecting seashells, so Emma decided to join them. She picked up a few and showed them to Ryan. "These are so pretty. I'll keep them as a memory of today." The day seemed perfect, filled with laughter and simple joys. But as they walked back to their umbrella, Emma noticed something was off. "Ryan, didn't we forget something important?" she asked. Ryan paused, a worried look on his face. As Emma and Ryan returned to their umbrella, Emma felt her skin burning. She touched her arm and winced. "Ryan, my skin feels so hot. Did we reapply sunscreen after we arrived?" Ryan's eyes widened. "Oh no, I think we forgot. We packed it, but we didn't use it after setting up." He quickly checked their bag, but it was empty. "Where is it? Did we leave it at home?" Emma sighed and sat down on the towel. "This is not good. We've been under the sun for hours." She looked at Ryan, whose face was already turning red. "You're getting sunburned too." Ryan rubbed his forehead and said, "Let's move under the shade of the coconut tree. It'll be cooler there." They hurriedly gathered their things and shifted to the shaded spot. As they sat, Emma frowned. "We were so excited about the day, we forgot something so basic." Ryan felt guilty. "I should have double-checked. Sunscreen is so important to protect us from the sun." Emma nodded and said, "Lesson learned. Next time, we'll make sure to apply it and keep it handy." Even though they felt uncomfortable, they laughed at their mistake. "It's a silly way to learn, but we won't forget again," Ryan said, trying to lighten the mood. Despite the mishap, they decided not to let it ruin their day. They still had time to enjoy the beach, but they promised to be more careful in the future. As the sun began to set, Emma and Ryan sat quietly, watching the waves sparkle under the golden light. The beach was calmer now, with fewer people around. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was soothing, and the cool evening breeze made them forget their earlier discomfort. Emma looked at the horizon and said, "Even with the sunscreen mishap, today was amazing. There's something magical about being at the beach." Ryan nodded. "Yeah, it's peaceful and refreshing. And I think we learned an important lesson too." He chuckled, rubbing his slightly red arms. "Never underestimate the power of sunscreen." Emma smiled and added, "Also, it reminds us to enjoy the simple things. Building sandcastles, flying a kite, and just feeling the sand between our toes. It was all so much fun." They both reflected on the day, realizing that even small mistakes couldn't overshadow the joy they felt. "It's not about having a perfect day," Emma said. "It's about making the most of whatever comes our way." Ryan agreed. And this day gave us memories we'll never forget, fun, laughter, and even a little lesson. As they started packing up, Emma picked up her collection of seashells and said, "These will always remind me of today." With happy hearts and a promise to plan better next time, they headed back to their car, leaving the beach behind but carrying the day's memories with them. As Emma and Ryan drove home, they couldn't stop talking about their day at the beach. The laughter, the activities, and even the little sunscreen mishap made their day special. And that's what this story is all about, learning and enjoying the journey, no matter what. Just like Emma and Ryan, you can make every experience a chance to learn something new. Did you notice all the new words we used today? Words like waves, sandcastles, sunscreen, and seashells. These are simple, everyday words that can help you improve your English vocabulary. Now it's your turn. Try using these words in sentences. For example, I built a sandcastle at the beach, or I always carry sunscreen on sunny days. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become in speaking and listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to Knowledge Drops for more fun and engaging stories to improve your English. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Also, tell us in the comments, what's your favorite activity at the beach? Have you ever had a funny or memorable beach day? We'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for spending your time with us. Keep practicing, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay curious and keep dropping knowledge. Imagine meeting a stranger who completely changes your day, perhaps even your life. That's exactly what happens in today's story. It's about Alex, a young man trying to improve his English, and Emma, someone he randomly meets at a park. A small conversation leads to an unexpected twist that might just leave you smiling. Now, why is this important? Because English listening and speaking go hand in hand. The more you listen, the better you speak, and small talk is the perfect place to start. Small talk isn't just about words, it's about connecting with people, sharing moments, and opening doors to new friendships and opportunities. So grab a cup of tea, sit back, and get ready for an engaging journey filled with practical English lessons and a heartwarming twist. Ready? Let's jump into the story. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, and the park was buzzing with life. The sound of children laughing echoed through the air, mingling with the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. Joggers passed by with rhythmic footsteps, and families gathered around picnic spots, enjoying the warmth of the day. Amidst this lively setting, Alex walked through the park, his hands tucked into his jacket pockets. Alex was in his early 20s, a quiet and thoughtful young man who had recently decided to improve his English. He loved reading and listening to English podcasts, but had little experience speaking the language. Today, however, he had promised himself he would try to talk to someone in English, no matter how nervous he felt. As Alex strolled along the pathway, his eyes landed on a young woman sitting alone on a wooden bench. She appeared to be about his age, with a book resting on her lap. She wasn't reading, though. She was gazing off into the distance, as if lost in thought. Alex hesitated for a moment, feeling his heart race. Maybe this is my chance, he thought, taking a deep breath to calm his nerves. The bench was shaded by a tall oak tree, its branches swaying gently in the wind. Alex noticed that the woman, Emma, seemed approachable. Her relaxed posture and soft smile gave him the courage to walk closer. He paused a few steps away, debating whether to speak or keep walking. After all, starting a conversation with a stranger wasn't easy, especially in a language he wasn't fluent in. But he reminded himself of his goal, to practice speaking, no matter what. Finally, Alex gathered his courage. He walked up to the bench, smiled politely, and said, "Hi, do you mind if I sit here?" Emma looked up, startled at first, but then smiled back. "Not at all, she replied, gesturing to the empty space beside her. Alex sat down, feeling both nervous and excited. Little did he know, this simple moment would soon lead to an unforgettable conversation. As Alex settled on the bench, he glanced at Emma, who was now closing her book with a curious smile. The silence between them was brief, but filled with anticipation. Alex decided to take the plunge. "Nice weather today, isn't it?" he said, keeping his tone friendly. Emma nodded. "Yes, it's perfect for being outside. I love spending time in the park on days like this." Alex smiled, feeling a bit more at ease. "Same here. I come here often to think and, well, to practice my English." Emma tilted her head slightly, intrigued. "Practice your English?" she asked. "Yes," Alex admitted, his cheeks turning slightly pink. "I'm trying to get better at speaking. It's not easy, but I want to improve." Emma's smile widened. "That's great. Speaking is one of the best ways to learn. You're doing well so far." Encouraged by her kind words, Alex felt a surge of confidence. "Thank you. May I ask, where are you from?" Emma's eyes lit up. "I'm from a small town not far from here. What about you?" "I live nearby," Alex replied. "I moved here a few months ago for my studies. It's been challenging, especially with the language." Emma nodded sympathetically. "I can imagine. Moving to a new place is always an adventure, but it's also a great opportunity to learn and grow." Alex was struck by how easy it was to talk to Emma. He decided to keep the conversation going. "So, what do you like to do in your free time?" Emma laughed softly. "Well, I enjoy reading, as you can see," she said, gesturing to her book. "I also love painting. It helps me relax after a busy day. What about you?" "I like listening to podcasts," Alex replied. "Mostly English ones. They help me learn new words and phrases." "That's a smart way to improve," Emma said warmly. "And you're brave to practice speaking with strangers. Most people would be too shy." Alex chuckled nervously. "To be honest, I almost didn't come over. But I'm glad I did." The conversation between Alex and Emma flowed more naturally now, as if they had known each other for longer than a few minutes. Alex felt a growing sense of comfort, and his initial nervousness began to fade. "You know," Alex said, "I've always struggled with small talk. It's hard to know what to say sometimes." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "That's true for a lot of people, even native speakers. But the key is to keep it simple. Questions like 'What do you like to do?' or 'Where are you from?' are a great start. They show that you're interested in the other person." Alex smiled. "I guess that makes sense. It's less about perfect grammar and more about making a connection, right?" "Exactly," Emma said, her enthusiasm infectious. "When you focus on connecting, the words come naturally." Encouraged, Alex asked, "Do you often meet new people here at the park?" Emma laughed softly. "Not really. I usually come here to relax or read. But sometimes, you end up meeting interesting people, like today." Alex grinned. "I feel the same way. I wasn't sure if I should talk to you, but I wanted to practice, and, well, here we are." Emma leaned back against the bench, her expression thoughtful. "It's brave of you to step out of your comfort zone. Most people hesitate, especially when learning a new language." Alex appreciated her kind words. "Thanks." "Speaking of stepping out of comfort zones, do you have any tips for improving English? Besides small talk, I mean." Emma's eyes sparkled. "Sure. Listen to more English conversations, whether it's through movies, podcasts, or real-life situations. And when you hear a new phrase, try to use it right away. Practice is everything." "That's really helpful," Alex said, nodding. "I'll try to do that more often." As they continued talking, Alex realized how much he was learning, not just about English, but about the power of open communication. He felt a connection forming, and for the first time, small talk didn't feel awkward, it felt meaningful. As the conversation unfolded, Alex and Emma discovered they had more in common than they initially thought. They shared a love for learning, an appreciation for quiet moments, and even a few favorite books. Alex began to feel like he was having one of the most genuine conversations he'd had in a long time. Then, Emma glanced at her watch and said, "I should probably get going soon. I have a painting class in an hour." Alex hesitated for a moment, feeling a little disappointed. "That sounds fun. Do you paint professionally?" Emma smiled. "Not yet, but I'd like to someday. For now, it's just a hobby." She paused, then added, "What about you? Do you have any goals for your English learning?" Alex nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be fluent enough to give presentations confidently. It's hard because I always second-guess myself. I worry that people might not understand me." Emma gave him an encouraging look. "You're better than you think, Alex. Your English is clear, and you're expressing yourself perfectly. You just need more confidence." Her words felt reassuring, and Alex smiled. "Thanks, Emma. That means a lot." As Emma gathered her things, she said something that surprised Alex. "By the way, I teach English part-time. If you ever want some extra help or someone to practice with, here's my number." She handed him a small piece of paper. Alex was taken aback. "Wait, you're an English teacher?" Emma laughed lightly. "I didn't mention it earlier because I didn't want you to feel nervous. But yes, I've been teaching for a few years now. It's my passion." For a moment, Alex was speechless. What were the odds of randomly meeting someone so perfectly aligned with his goals? He shook his head in amazement. "This feels like fate or something. I was so nervous about starting a conversation, and now I've met someone who can actually help me improve." Emma smiled warmly. "Sometimes, life works in mysterious ways. It all starts with a simple hello." As she walked away, Alex felt a new sense of motivation and gratitude. As Emma walked away, Alex sat on the bench for a while, replaying the conversation in his mind. He couldn't believe how things had turned out. What had started as a simple decision to practice English had transformed into an unexpected yet meaningful connection. He looked down at the piece of paper in his hand with Emma's number written on it. It wasn't just a contact, it was a reminder of how small steps could lead to significant changes. For the first time, Alex truly understood the importance of taking action, no matter how nervous or uncertain he felt. This is what learning is all about, Alex thought. It's not just about the words or the grammar. It's about building confidence and connecting with people. The experience had taught him several valuable lessons. First, stepping out of his comfort zone had opened up new opportunities. Second, practicing English with real people was more effective and enjoyable than he had imagined. And third, small talk, simple questions like "Where are you from?" or "What do you like to do?" could be the gateway to deeper, meaningful conversations. As Alex left the park, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He promised himself he would keep practicing, keep talking to new people, and keep learning. The thought of seeing Emma again and improving his English with her guidance gave him a sense of excitement. The story of Alex and Emma serves as a reminder to us all. Learning a language isn't just about memorizing words. It's about taking risks, embracing the unknown, and connecting with others. So the next time you feel nervous about starting a conversation in English, remember Alex's story. All it takes is a little courage to say, "Hi, do you mind if I sit here?" You never know where that simple question might lead. Imagine this. You walk into a grocery store with a plan in mind. Everything seems normal until boom, you realize something is missing. Can you guess what it is? Yes, your shopping list. Now, what will you do? Will you leave the store empty-handed, or will you find a way to complete your shopping? This is where the fun begins. In today's story, we'll follow a character as they turn a regular grocery trip into an adventurous scavenger hunt. Along the way, you'll learn useful English words and phrases, perfect for conversations in everyday life. But before we jump into the adventure, let's talk about why listening and speaking in English are so important. Imagine being able to confidently talk to someone at a store, at work, or even while traveling. Learning English is like unlocking a new world of opportunities. And listening to stories like this one is a fun way to practice your skills. So stay with us as we dive into a story that's not just entertaining, but also full of learning. There's a twist waiting for you, so don't miss it. Let's get started with the grocery store adventure. It was a bright Saturday morning, and Emma was ready to tackle her weekly grocery shopping. She lived in a small but cozy apartment, and grocery day was always an important part of her routine. This time, she decided to be extra organized. She had carefully written down her shopping list the night before, making sure not to miss anything. From fresh fruits and vegetables to cleaning supplies, everything was listed neatly on a piece of paper. "Okay, I'm all set," Emma said to herself as she grabbed her tote bag and keys. She felt confident about completing her shopping quickly and efficiently. As Emma stepped into the grocery store, she was greeted by the familiar smell of freshly baked bread and the soft hum of background music. She pulled out her phone to check the list, but then a sudden thought hit her. "Wait a minute. I didn't save it on my phone." Her eyes widened in realization. The list was still sitting on her dining table at home. For a moment, Emma panicked. "How could I forget something so important?" she muttered under her breath. She thought about heading back home to retrieve the list, but the store was already crowded, and she didn't want to waste time. Taking a deep breath, Emma decided to rely on her memory. "I can do this," she told herself, trying to stay positive. "It's just a shopping list, not a math exam." Emma started walking through the store, hoping her memory would guide her. Little did she know, this small mistake was about to turn her ordinary shopping trip into a fun and challenging adventure she would never forget. Emma stood at the entrance of the grocery store, trying to picture her forgotten list. Okay, what was the first thing on it? Milk? Or was it eggs? She murmured to herself. The store felt like a maze, with shelves stacked high and shoppers bustling around her. She knew she needed to focus, but the pressure was getting to her. To calm herself, Emma decided to tackle the essentials first. She headed to the dairy section. "I'm sure I need milk," she thought, grabbing a carton and placing it in her cart. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something odd. "Do I need butter too? Or was that for next week?" Doubt crept into her mind, making her second-guess every decision. Determined to make progress, Emma decided to ask for help. She approached a friendly-looking store clerk. "Excuse me," she said with a nervous smile, "can you tell me where the bread section is?" The clerk nodded and pointed toward the far corner of the store. "Thank you," Emma replied, grateful for the guidance. As Emma walked through the aisles, she started overhearing snippets of conversations. A mother was teaching her child the names of vegetables, while an elderly man was asking about discounts. Listening to these everyday dialogues sparked an idea in Emma's mind. This could be a great chance to practice my own English speaking skills. She decided to make small conversations wherever possible. At the bakery, she asked the staff about the best type of bread for sandwiches. In the fruit aisle, she chatted with another shopper about picking ripe mangoes. Slowly, Emma's confidence grew, and she realized this challenge wasn't just about shopping, it was about stepping out of her comfort zone. As Emma strolled deeper into the store, her shopping cart slowly began to fill, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was forgetting something important. "Let's make this fun," she thought. "I'll turn this into a scavenger hunt." She pulled out her phone and opened the Notes app, jotting down categories like fruits, snacks, and cleaning supplies. "This way, I can at least organize my guesses," she said with a chuckle. Her first stop was the fruit aisle. She remembered that bananas were definitely on the list. But what about apples? She spotted a mother and her young son nearby. "Excuse me," she said politely, "do you think green apples are sweeter than red ones?" The boy eagerly chimed in, "No, red ones are the best." Emma laughed and decided to grab both. Next, she moved to the snack section. She scanned the shelves, wondering if chips or biscuits had made it onto her list. Suddenly, a store announcement caught her attention. "Today's special, buy one, get one free on all cookies." Emma grinned. "That solves my problem," she said, tossing 2 packs of chocolate chip cookies into her cart. The scavenger hunt became more exciting as Emma tried to recall specific items. In the cleaning aisle, she debated between lemon-scented and lavender-scented cleaners. "Why is this so hard?" she muttered. But she turned it into a guessing game, picking whichever item seemed most likely to be on her list. Emma's scavenger hunt wasn't perfect, but it was turning into a fun learning experience. She practiced her English by reading product labels, chatting with store staff, and even cracking a joke with the cashier. "This is more than shopping," she thought. "It's an adventure." After an hour of wandering through the store, Emma finally reached the checkout counter. Her cart was full, but her mind was still racing. "Did I miss anything? Should I go back for another look?" she wondered. The cashier, a young man with a cheerful smile, started scanning her items. As he worked, he casually asked, "Did you find everything you were looking for?" Emma hesitated for a moment and then replied with a laugh, "I think so, but I forgot my list at home, so this trip felt like a treasure hunt." The cashier chuckled. "That happens to a lot of people," he said. "But you seem like you made the best of it." Emma smiled, realizing he was right. She had turned a stressful situation into something fun and rewarding. As she loaded her bags into the car, Emma reflected on the experience. She had not only completed her shopping, but had also improved her English skills. From asking questions to starting conversations, she had pushed herself to interact with others, even when she felt nervous. On the drive home, Emma thought about how small challenges could teach big lessons. Forgetting the list had been inconvenient, but it had also shown her the importance of staying calm, being resourceful, and taking every opportunity to practice her English. When she got home, she found the forgotten list still sitting on the dining table. She picked it up and laughed. "Next time, I'll remember you," she said to the piece of paper. But deep down, Emma knew that the real treasure wasn't just the groceries. It was the confidence she had gained along the way. As Emma unpacked her groceries at home, she couldn't help but smile at the day's events. What started as a stressful situation had turned into a valuable learning experience. She realized that sometimes, life throws unexpected challenges our way, but it's how we respond that truly matters. Emma's adventure at the grocery store taught her more than just shopping skills. It reminded her of the importance of staying calm under pressure and finding creative solutions to problems. But most importantly, it gave her a chance to practice her English in real-life situations. She thought back to the conversations she had during her shopping trip. Each small chat, whether it was asking about bread, discussing fruit, or joking with the cashier, had boosted her confidence. She felt proud of herself for stepping out of her comfort zone. Emma decided to make this a habit. Why not turn every ordinary task into an opportunity to learn, she thought. From now on, she would look for ways to improve her English in everyday activities, whether it was reading labels, talking to people, or even narrating her own thoughts aloud. As she placed the last item in her kitchen cupboard, Emma realized something important. English wasn't just a language, it was a tool that could open doors to new experiences, connections, and personal growth. With a renewed sense of determination, Emma promised herself, "Next time, I'll be even better." In this story, we are about to meet a group of students who face an unexpected challenge, a new teacher. But this is not just any teacher. He is fun, energetic, and creative, but at the same time, he is strict and loves discipline. How will the students adjust to this new personality? Will they learn valuable lessons, or will it be a struggle? Imagine this. You walk into your classroom expecting a normal day, but then you hear whispers, "We're getting a new teacher today." Some students are excited, others are nervous, and a few are not paying attention at all. This is where the story begins. But this story is not just about students and their teacher. It's about learning something very important, how listening can change everything. Why is listening so important in learning English? Because it's the first step to understanding, speaking, and even thinking in English. If you don't listen carefully, you might miss key details, misunderstand instructions, or lose opportunities to learn new words and phrases. In this story, you will see how the students learn that listening carefully can be the difference between success and failure. But don't think this will be a boring lesson. It's full of fun moments, unexpected twists, and a challenge that tests the students in surprising ways. So, are you ready to dive into the classroom of Mr. James, the fun but strict new teacher? Let's find out what happens next. The news of the new teacher spread like wildfire through the school. Students whispered excitedly in the corridors and speculated about what he would be like. Some said he was strict, while others heard he was fun and creative. Emma, a curious and talkative student, couldn't stop asking questions. "Do you think he'll make us write essays every day?" she asked her friend Liam, who shrugged. "I just hope he's not boring." When the bell rang for their English class, the students hurried inside, eager to see the mysterious Mr. James. The classroom buzzed with chatter until the door opened, and in walked a tall man with a warm smile and a sharp gaze. "Good morning, everyone," he said in a cheerful tone, clapping his hands once to grab their attention. The room fell silent. Mr. James introduced himself with energy and confidence. "My name is Mr. James, and I'll be your English teacher. I believe learning English can be fun, but only if we work together. I have 3 rules in my class: listen carefully, speak bravely, and always try your best. Are you ready for the challenge?" The students exchanged glances. Some nodded eagerly, while others looked unsure. Emma raised her hand. "What happens if we don't follow the rules?" she asked. Mr. James smiled. "Good question, Emma. If you don't follow the rules, you'll find my class quite difficult. But if you do, you'll discover how exciting learning English can be." Then, Mr. James did something unexpected. He asked each student to introduce themselves, not just with their names but with one thing they loved. "Hi, I'm Liam, and I love football," one boy said shyly. "I'm Sarah, and I love reading stories," said a confident girl in the front row. Mr. James listened to each introduction carefully, responding with enthusiasm. "Football teaches teamwork," he told Liam. "And stories help us dream," he said to Sarah. The students began to feel more comfortable as they realized Mr. James wasn't scary. He was approachable and encouraging. By the end of the lesson, the students were curious to see what the next class would bring. Mr. James left them with a thought. English isn't just about words. It's about listening, understanding, and connecting. And trust me, you'll love it. The next day, the students arrived in Mr. James' class with mixed emotions. Some were excited, while others were still unsure about what to expect. The atmosphere was buzzing with anticipation. Mr. James stood at the front of the room, holding a stack of papers. "Good morning, everyone," he greeted them with a smile. "Today, we'll be doing something different, a listening challenge." A murmur spread through the room. "A challenge?" whispered Emma, nudging Liam. He nodded nervously. "I hope it's not too hard." Mr. James raised his hand to quiet the room. "Here's how it works," he explained. I'll read out a set of instructions. You'll need to listen carefully and follow them exactly. No questions, no repeats. Let's see who can get it right. He handed out blank sheets of paper. Ready? Listen carefully. He began reading the instructions slowly but clearly. Draw a square in the middle of your paper. Inside the square, draw a triangle. Then, on the top left corner, draw a small circle. The students immediately got to work, their pencils scratching on paper. Some looked confident, while others glanced around nervously, unsure if they heard correctly. Emma hesitated, trying to remember if Mr. James said the circle should be inside the square or outside. Liam frowned, already realizing he had drawn the triangle on the wrong side. When the time was up, Mr. James asked the students to hold up their papers. The room erupted in laughter as they compared their drawings. "That was harder than I thought," said Sarah, shaking her head. "I missed the part about the triangle." Mr. James smiled. "Exactly. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about focusing and understanding. And this is why listening is so important when learning English. If you don't listen carefully, you can miss key details." He went on to explain how listening skills could help them improve their English speaking and comprehension. When you listen carefully, you learn new words, sentence structures, and even the right pronunciation. It's like a superpower. By the end of the class, the students were already looking forward to the next challenge. Mr. James left them with a question to ponder. What can you achieve if you truly listen to what's being said? As the days passed, the students began to understand that Mr. James' teaching style was unlike anything they had experienced before. He combined fun with discipline, making every class both challenging and enjoyable. One day, he introduced a new activity, role-playing conversations. "Today, we are going to practice speaking English with each other," Mr. James announced. The students groaned softly. Speaking out loud was the part they found the hardest. Emma whispered to Liam, "What if I make a mistake?" Mr. James noticed their hesitation and addressed the class. Mistakes are not failures. They're stepping stones to improvement. Remember, the more you practice, the better you become. He divided the class into pairs and gave each pair a scenario. Emma and Liam were assigned a situation where they had to book a hotel room. "Start by introducing yourselves," Mr. James instructed. "Then, ask about the room, the price, and the facilities." The classroom filled with hesitant but determined voices as the students began their dialogues. Emma stumbled over a few sentences, but kept going. "Excuse me," she said slowly, "do you have a room for 2 people?" Liam responded, trying to sound professional. "Yes, we have a room with a big bed," he said, pausing to think about the words. Mr. James moved around the room, listening to each pair. When he reached Emma and Liam, he smiled. "Good effort. Emma, try saying, 'Do you have a double room?' It's a bit more natural. And Liam, great job, but add details like, 'We also offer free breakfast.'" By the end of the activity, the students were laughing at their mistakes and sharing tips on how to improve. Sarah, who had been shy at first, surprised everyone with her confident performance as a restaurant customer. "I didn't know I could do that," she said, beaming. Mr. James wrapped up the class with a reflection. "You see, speaking English is not about being perfect, it's about trying and improving each time. Today, you all took a big step forward." The students left the classroom feeling proud and motivated. They realized that learning English wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it was about communicating, connecting, and enjoying the process. As the weeks turned into months, Mr. James' classroom became a place of growth and discovery. The students, once shy and hesitant, were now speaking English with confidence. Mistakes, which once caused embarrassment, were now seen as opportunities to learn. Emma, who had struggled with speaking in the beginning, became one of the most enthusiastic participants in class activities. She often stayed back to ask Mr. James questions and practice new phrases. Liam, who used to shy away from speaking, found himself volunteering to lead group discussions. Even Sarah, who was already a good student, realized that there was always room to improve her pronunciation and listening skills. Mr. James introduced new activities each week, storytelling, debates, and even short skits, to keep the students engaged. He also encouraged them to watch English movies with subtitles and listen to English songs to enhance their learning outside the classroom. Language is everywhere, he reminded them. You just need to listen and learn from it. One day, Mr. James gave the students an unexpected assignment: to write a letter to their future selves, describing their journey of learning English. When they read their letters aloud in class, it became clear how much they had grown. Emma's letter read, "Dear future me, I'm proud of how brave I've become. Speaking English doesn't scare me anymore. Thank you, Mr. James." As the semester ended, the students felt a mix of sadness and gratitude. They had not only learned English but also developed a deeper understanding of themselves. Mr. James smiled as he addressed the class one last time. Remember, English is not just a subject, it's a bridge to new opportunities. Keep practicing, keep learning, and never give up. The students left, knowing they had gained more than just language skills. They had found confidence and a lifelong love for learning.